Chapter 1. Li Qi. Forward. Please do not consider the protagonist a normal transmigrator. Normal transmigrators do not lose their memories. It was a bright, sunny afternoon. Li Qi, his short black hair ruffled by the breeze, sprawled comfortably beneath a broad tree, enjoying the cool shade and letting his meal settle. In this life, he was still underage and had a delicate, almost fragile appearance. His skin was pale, his features soft, and unlike his previous life, his pupils were vertically elliptical. He wore animal hide clothing, 2 pouches at his waist, one large, one small, and a grayish-white bone shield strapped to his back. 14 years in this world had taught him to accept the slow pace and lack of technological trappings. Time slips by so fast, he thought. In a little over a year, I'll be going to Chaoguang Academy to cultivate. He turned his head toward the family encampment and felt a warmth rise in his chest. Each time a younger sibling was born, he felt genuine joy. Raised as an orphan by his grandfather, Li Qi had lost most of his memories of his previous life. The love he received from his family now, parents, elders, siblings, was something he'd always longed for. In his former life, after seeing his grandfather off, he'd planned a quiet trip to admire his homeland's scenery and find a peaceful place to spend his remaining days. That plan had been cut short only days after it began, struck down, absurdly, by a dump truck meeting its quota and sent tumbling into another world. At first, he hadn't even realized he'd transmigrated into the swallowed star universe. The family's nomadic lifestyle and the world's customs felt similar enough to a Xuanhuan or Shanxia setting that, coupled with the strange cultivation technique lodged in his mind, the 9 revolutions Yuan heavy body refining method, he assumed he'd landed in one of those worlds. It wasn't until he inadvertently displayed a psyker master talent and overheard his elders using terms like apprentice level and planetary level over a communicator while speaking with his grandfather that the truth settled in. He was in the swallowed star world. He knew the term, swallowed star, from a favorite novel of his former life. For a moment, he even toyed with the idea of attaching himself to Luo Feng. With that worldview and those stakes, as long as he survived, he might one day become an undying spiritual god. But he hadn't even figured out the era or which high-level universe country he was in, so that plan was quickly abandoned. He muttered the name of the secret cultivation technique under his breath. 9 revolutions Yuan heavy body refining method. A helpless, frustrated look crossed his face. He could see the name, but not the content. Its details remained a blur. Worse, he couldn't even vocalize it. If he tried, no one would hear it, and bystanders would see no movement of his lips. From what he remembered of the original Swallowed Star novel, the method likely surpassed even the universe strongest, beyond the true God realm, and so it had been blacklisted and sealed by primordial universe-level consciousness. Only the method's legacy holder could know its name or contents. Lucky, I've got more than that one cheat, he told himself. From the small pouch at his waist, 16 slender bone fragments rose into the air and swirled together, forming a roaring, grayish-white simulacrum of a vicious beast. Li Qi had compared the strength of his 4th sister's object control attack at apprentice level 7 and deduced that his own spiritual force, his mental power, was more than 10 times that of peers at the same realm. Measurement methods varied, he knew, so he couldn't pin down the exact multiplier, but the gap was unmistakable. Without any external amplification, such a margin could only be caused by a gene multiple many times greater than normal. He suspected the meteor the elders had seen when he was born, one that had blazed toward the encampment and then inexplicably vanished when they went to intercept it, had something to do with it. A gene multiple over 10 times, he smiled inwardly, was the confidence to dominate his peers and even threaten those above him. But that kind of bodily talent was dangerous to advertise. Body talents could be possessed, hijacked. Reckless exposure would draw the wrong kind of attention from universe adventurers. Hadn't those powerful Mancaxians also been captured and possessed? For now, he would hide it. If a stage like the Cosmic Peak Genius Battle ever presented itself, he would still be able to display it. In the Swallowed Star world, pretending to be weak until the right moment could work, but pretend too long and you might actually become weak. He tightened his right hand. The grayish-white beast in the air lunged, leapt, and swept in a tail whip, then trembled as if trying to shake free of his control. With a sharp crack, the construct disintegrated, 16 bone fragments scattering and falling to the ground. He had failed. This had been an attempt to cultivate the fourth stage of the controller's basic 28 forms. The controller's basic 28 forms were the foundational techniques for Psyker Masters on the Lava Empire's cultivation planets. Completing all 4 stages was said to allow a breakthrough to planetary level. Li Qi sighed. As he'd suspected, trying to practice the 4th stage without spiritual force that had reached the peak of apprentice level 9 was still too difficult. Despite his reluctance to leave family and home, Li Qi continued to cultivate. Opportunities to step onto a public stage were rare, and the Lava Empire prized geniuses. On Kuka Star, the planet where he lived, the path was clear. Chaoguang Academy in Chaoguang City, then the United Cultivation Camp on Kuka Star, and finally the legendary Stellar Cultivation Camp on other planets. Talent and will could carry someone all the way to planetary renown, but the thought of entering the Empire's cultivation system kept him uneasy. To receive cultivation resources, he had to join the system, and that meant tests, assessments, and the risk of exposing his unusual body talent. That fear was why he had delayed going to Chaoguang Academy until he could no longer put it off. Now he would go when he turned 16. A gentle breeze swept the land. The calm afternoon was broken by a sharp cry from the sky. Chirp! Li Qi squinted up. A small black dot moved against the blue, drawn in the direction of the family encampment. His expression shifted. That wasn't the wild flight of a hunting thunder eagle. Hastily he flipped, launched the bone shield from his back into the air, and pushed off the ground. Dirt exploded beneath him as he jumped. The shield arced to his feet and bore him toward the black speck above. From the larger pouch came a steady stream of grayish-white bone cones. 16 of them circled him, a defensive ring. The dot in the sky grew fast. When he was close enough to see detail, his face drained of color. A pitch-black flying Yao beast circled above, its beak and claws sharp as knives, fresh blood dripping from them. Its feathers shimmered with a metallic luster. Its eyes were bright with cruelty and excitement. It hovered, unblinking, its gaze fixed on a cave entrance halfway up the hill below. Li Qi's mind flashed the beast's data. Nightbird, a nocturnal flying Yao beast that hunts in family units. Adults could reach apprentice level 7 and typically had a wingspan of 3 to 4 meters. But this bird's wingspan was over 10 meters. A chill ran through him. Planetary level, he thought. A planetary level nightbird. Why would something so powerful be here? He followed the creature's stare and understood at once. The cave the nightbird was watching, its attention pinned to that dark mouth in the hillside, was 19's secret base. Chapter 2. You need a background to get into this business. Looking down, Li Qi could just make out the scene below. The boulder that had sealed the cave mouth lay smashed into several slabs, filling half the entrance. A smear of white showed among the rubble. Li Qi looked up, his eyes flashing with a hard light as he stared at the Black Knight bird. The Black Knight bird cocked its head slightly, regarding Li Qi with an expression that mixed disdain, mockery, and a wary intelligence. Planetary-level Yao beasts were no less clever than ordinary humans. In the bird's estimation, a human who hadn't yet reached planetary level was hardly worth much attention, yet could not safely be ignored. Li Qi didn't make any rash move. He kept calm, judging the situation carefully. If he didn't know that little 18 and little 19 weren't wearing white beast-skin cloaks today, he might have flown into a rage. As it was, he restrained himself. The bird, uninterested in the human, fixed on its prey and spread its wings to dive. Trying to ignore me? How arrogant. Li Qi's gaze went ice-cold. With the wind tearing through the air, 10 bone cones shot from his hands. They fanned out and cut across the Black Knight bird's dive. As if expecting them, the bird folded its wings, tucked its head and belly in, and spun down. Thud, thud, thud. Bone cones struck it in sequence, sending it flipping through the air. Several black, metallic feathers fell away as it tumbled. A sharp, pained cry rang out. After several frantic flaps, the Black Knight bird managed to steady itself and raised its head. Its eyes now held a new respect, mingled with loathing and anger. It had misjudged this human. Those bone cones had nearly pierced its tough plumage. It had thought Li Qi an insignificant pest, but that pest had the power to wound it. Li Qi was slightly surprised too. With his mind power, over 10 times stronger than most at his rank, and bone cones made from the fangs of a Tier 3 planetary Yao beast, he expected more damage. The bird's feathers were astonishingly tough. This hardness, it's not a Tier 1 planetary bird, he muttered. If one bone cone can't pierce it, then use 2. Stack them. He narrowed his eyes. Of the 16 bone cones orbiting him, 12 leapt forward and paired into 6 twin projectiles, leaving 4 to guard his flanks. The Black Knight bird watched without moving, then suddenly launched itself straight at him. Go! At Li Qi's will, 4 pairs of bone cones shot after the bird as it moved, tearing through the air. The 2 remaining pairs dropped behind him, seemingly to guard the approach. The bird beat its wings hard and narrowly avoided the 4 paired volleys, then dove again, an unpredictable feint aimed not at Li Qi, but at the hidden base in the hill below, where the 2 human cubs sheltered. I knew you'd play that trick. Li Qi had expected the cunning of a planetary-level Yao beast. He couldn't allow the bird to reach Little 18 and Little 19's hideout. He steered the 4 chasing pairs to tail the bird closely, their speed reduced but persistent. The 2 pairs that had fallen behind now rose up, closing from opposite sides to sandwich the bird. Yao beasts might be as intelligent as humans in many ways, but their solutions leaned toward force more than guile. Once its intention was exposed, the Black Knight bird had to decide. Between continuing to grapple with a human who could fly, attack, and defend, and going for the easier kill, the 2 cubs in the hill, it chose the latter. Better to finish the simpler task and bring back bodies to satisfy its mission. The side attack hit like clockwork. 2 pairs of bone cones struck in rapid sequence with metallic clangs, the second cone crashing into the tail of the first. The impact drove the first cone deep, and a wet, sickening squelch told of flesh pierced beneath the bird's armored plumage. The force shoved the creature off course, forcing it to lurch upward and backward. Thud, thud, thud. More metal rang as the 4 pairs chasing from above hammered the bird. Their impacts were smaller, though, and failed to send it crashing as Li Qi had hoped. How can that be? The bird squawked, baffled. It beat its wings already streaked with blood, trying to continue its dive. Then 2 more bone cones slammed into it from below, stopping its momentum. It cried out in fury as a steady volley came at it from both flanks. Feint? Playing mind games with us? You overestimate yourself, one of the incoming weapons might as well have said, as Li Qi watched the bird under siege and calculated the timing in his head. They should be here soon. Down in the Royce family's encampment in the valley, the sound of metal on beast flesh had drawn attention. What's that sound? Did something happen? Whoosh! Before the tent flaps even fell, 6 glows leapt into the air. The 6 figures, all faintly luminous, rose above the tents and scanned the sky. Then one of them spotted the fight. Look up there! Someone's fighting a Yao beast. No further confirmation was necessary. All 6 were planetary-level experts. Their vision took in the scene instantly. It's 11, someone called. One of them recognized Li Qi. Move, another shouted, and they surged upward. The Black Knight bird saw the light and froze. Reinforcements, planetary-level humans were coming, and not just one. The bird's priorities snapped into place. Its mission mattered less than survival. It could not keep tangling with Li Qi while more enemies arrived. Escape. Using every ounce of force left, it beat its wounded wings and tore away at top speed. Don't let it go. A planetary-level expert from the valley below hurled a mind energy weapon after it, the projectile streaking with dazzling speed. Li Qi, balanced on his bone shield in the air, watched the fleeing silhouette. If I fought it one-on-one, I wouldn't win, he said aloud, measuring his odds. But the good news is, I don't need to take it one-on-one. I just need to hold it long enough. I've got people coming. A planetary expert shot up to Li Qi's side. 11. What's happening? Li Qi's attention snapped back to the hill below. I'll explain later. First, I'm going down to check. He didn't wait for more questions. With a thought, he summoned his bone shield and dove toward the hill, intent on making sure the cubs were safe. Chapter 3. Misfortune. As he approached the hill, Li Qi could see the scene below clearly. The boulder that had once blocked the cave mouth lay shattered in pieces. A small white beast lay among the fragments, its belly ripped open, blood pooled around it, its vitality gone. It really was little 18's little white. After the previous 4 little whites, a 5th had died. Li Qi jumped down from his bone shield and hurried to the cave entrance. From within, a pair of large eyes met his. He spoke softly, "Come out, 19. Where's that big bird?" A small boy, 4 or 5 years old, with his face smeared in dirt, poked his head out and peered left and right, as if afraid the bird might return. "Brother 11. Before Li Qi could answer, a little girl, also 4 or 5, wearing a dirty animal skin outfit, crawled out and flung herself into his arms. The affectionate impact from his level 2 apprentice sister rocked even Li Qi. Ignoring the filth on her clothes, he picked her up and wiped the dirt and tears from her face. "Little 18, why are you crying so much?" he asked gently. "That big bird was so fierce. It just, little white." Her tears spilled over again. "It's okay, don't cry. In a few days I'll catch you another little white," he soothed. Little 18 won't cry anymore." She wiped her face and nodded solemnly. 11. A figure in black leather armor descended slowly from the sky. Li Qi recognized him. Delacour Royce, his father, and the 7th-ranked member of the family's 2nd generation. "7th uncle, hug!" 19 reached for Delacour as he landed. Delacour ignored 19's reaching hand and took little 18 from Li Qi, cradling her and cooing until she stopped trembling. Li Qi was used to this. His father always doted on little 18 while the other boy loped after them. The Royce family was male-dominated. Only 3 females had been born in the 3rd generation, and little 18, as the youngest, received endless indulgence. "What's going on with that nightbird?" Delacour asked after the girl had calmed. Li Qi shook his head. "I'm not sure. That nightbird kept staring at—" He glanced at little 18 and little 19 and let the sentence hang. "We'll talk about it back home." Delacour nodded. Amid their giggles, he lifted little 18 high and carried her off. Li Qi watched them go, then glanced back toward the spot where the nightbird had fled. 3 shafts of light surrounded a dark figure there, and a group began harassing it. Without a psionic weapon, bone cones made only from the teeth of a planetary-level monster have trouble threatening another planetary-level beast, Li Qi muttered to himself. Given a Yao beast's mass and tough body, a bone cone would have to break through defenses and strike a vital spot, heart or brain, to be decisive. He recalled the clash with the nightbird. His bone cone had penetrated the hard feather defense into flesh, causing damage, but to the nightbird it had been like a mosquito bite, sharp pain, then nothing. Worse, after he drove in 2 bone cones, they were clamped by the bird's muscles, and he couldn't maneuver them further. In a one-on-one fight, he would have eventually run out of bone cones and lost. If I had a psionic weapon, killing that nightbird wouldn't be hard. Psionic weapons were famous for their edge. Even a broken piece could be a deadly weapon for a psyker master. He remembered how Luo Feng, at the peak of Apprentice Level 9, had killed a planetary-level expert in Tier 1 force armor with his Duntian shuttle. But psionic weapons were rare. He'd need to go to Kaoguang Academy or the United Cultivation Camp to acquire one. The thought pulled him in circles. To get stronger, he'd have to leave the family. Li Qi shook his head. He didn't want to leave for now, so he pushed the idea away. At the family station, he entrusted little 19 to his parents and was soon summoned to the main tent. Inside, 3 people were seated: his father Delacour, great-father Halu, and 6th uncle Garabel, each a planetary-level expert. Li Qi had long suspected their bloodline was strong. Every adult in the family's 2nd generation was planetary level, and 2 even had astral ranks. The 3rd generation adults were mostly apprentice level 9, and the eldest brother had reached planetary rank 9. "Father, great-father, 6th uncle," Li Qi greeted and took a seat beside his father. Garabel was the first to speak. 11, you did exceptionally well. You didn't flinch facing a planetary-level nightbird. If not for you, little 18 and 19 would have been in danger. Li Qi felt a little awkward. 6th uncle was always strict, but he smiled and replied, "As their brother, that's what I should do." Delacour nodded and prompted, "Tell us exactly what happened." Li Qi recounted how he discovered the nightbird and his observations. "I don't know why, but it was persistent. It kept trying to attack little 18 and 19, even ignoring my attacks. That is odd. Hulu, who managed the family, listened intently, then turned to Garabel. Sixth brother, have the Thunder Eagles returned? I checked. They haven't, Garabel answered. Delacour said, they probably won't. If a planetary-level nightbird could sneakingly enter the family station, the Thunder Eagles are likely gone. Holu frowned. Keep the little ones from going out recently. And I've already informed Father. When he returns, your reward 11 will not be small, Delacour added. Li Qi didn't care about rewards. Little 18 and 19 being safe was reward enough. Holu raised his left arm and tapped the black communicator on his wrist. A holographic screen flickered to life. Father's message, he said. Seeing the sender, he opened the message, then his expression darkened. He forwarded the email to brothers who weren't present and announced in a heavy voice, something has happened. As per this chapter's title, the author's computer has issues. Hopefully, there will be an update tomorrow. Chapter 4. Patrol Mission. What did Grandpa in Chaoguang City say in his email? Li Qi asked, waiting for Holu to continue. The appearance of the Black Knight bird wasn't an isolated incident, Holu said. According to the messages my father received from Chaoguang City, it wasn't only our clan attacked by a planetary rank Yao beast. Tribes along the edge of the inner prairie are being hit across the board. The beasts are specifically targeting human children, and when they succeed, they flee with the bodies. It's not just Chaoguang City. Similar reports are coming in from the other 5 major cities. Holu's words explained why the Black Knight bird had been so relentless against Xiao Shiba and 19. Because these planetary attacks appear coordinated, 4 planetary rank cultivators died defending Chaoguang City alone. Several tribes were wiped out, over 1,000 casualties. The news that 4 planetary rank cultivators had been killed fell like a stone. That number exceeded everyone's expectations. It was comparable to the losses from 1 or 2 full beast tides. And there's more, Holu continued. A beast tide is coming. From the recent attacks, this one looks serious. My father and third uncle have already rushed back from Chaoguang City. Before they arrive, we need to warn the tribes without planetary rank defenders that the tide is approaching. During the patrol ahead of the tide, if necessary, we must help other tribes migrate to the shelters. Assist with migrations? Gurubuerser said in a low voice. We've never done that before. Father said the Chaoguang City Council thinks this tide is unusual, Holu explained. To prevent shelters from being breached, each shelter will have 2 astral rank powerhouses stationed. Also, stronger tribes are expected to shoulder more responsibility, protect weaker tribes during migration, so their life forces are preserved. Gurebur nodded. So are we leaving now? Not all of us. Holu looked at Derek. Until Father returns, the family needs at least 3 planetary rank cultivators here. Sixth uncle, you're a spiritual mentor. You must stay. Derek turned to Li Qi. You're coming on the patrol too. Li Qi blinked. Me? Don't you need a planetary rank cultivator? With the strength you showed today, you're suited for the patrol toward Chaoguang City, Derek said. There are mostly apprentice-level Yao beasts that way. The chance of encountering a planetary rank beast is almost 0. We need numbers. The more tribes we gather, the safer the migrations. This tide looks unusual. Every extra pair of hands helps. Derek patted Li Qi's shoulder. You can save a lot of people. Li Qi considered his father's words, inhaled, and stood. I'll go get my spare gear and leave right away. Wait. Derek stopped him and took off the communicator on his left wrist. He tossed it to Li Qi. Take this. If you run into a planetary rank Yao beast, call for help immediately. It also serves as a map and compass. Try to gather tribes and move them as a group. That's safer and more convenient. All right, Father. And for now, don't tell your mother you're going on patrol. She'll only worry. You can get food and water from the dining tent. Li Qi nodded. He didn't want to worry Wen Ni. Derek waved him off. Go. After Li Qi left, Garabur asked, Seventh uncle, are you sure about letting 11 go on a patrol? Derek sighed. There's no other choice. This kid's been slacking the last few years. If I don't press him, he won't improve. Let him see the harshness of the prairie. He'll understand why strength matters. Besides, he held a 3rd-tier planetary Black Knight bird at bay for a long time. As long as he doesn't run into a 5th-tier planetary or above, he can escape. Halu and Garabur both agreed. Lichi's talent was undeniable. Everyone expected him to be the family's fifth astral rank cultivator someday, but lately he'd been lax. Aside from practicing the controller's basic 28 styles, he rarely trained his genetic primal energy methods, and he wouldn't even eat the purple-orange fruit he'd been given. Purple-orange fruit wasn't common, and it slowly boosted physical constitution. Instead, he let Xiao Shiba snack on it. Now Xiao Shiba, barely over 4 years old, was approaching apprentice-rank third-tier physique, while her twin, Xiao 19, had only reached apprentice-rank first-tier. They suspected Li Qi avoided leaving the family because he didn't want to go to Chaoguang Academy. "He needs a little pressure," Holu murmured. "Right," Garabur said. "I'll go to the dining tent and prepare food and water for 11. Derek stood and left. Halu watched his seventh brother's back and thought, with a bit of wry pity, that 11's personality was a problem too. At home, Wenni was sewing leather boots. When Li Qi came back, she put the work aside and hurried over, worried. 11, I heard you fought a planetary rank Yao beast. Are you hurt? She examined him as if checking for hidden wounds. I'm fine, don't worry, Li Qi said with a smile. Seeing he was uninjured, Wenni relaxed and cupped his face in her hands. You're amazing. You saved Xiao Shiba and 19. You're a good older brother. Mother, I'm not a child anymore, Li Qi protested. Yes, you're an adult, Wenni cooed. You're 11, grown up now. Knowing discussion wouldn't change her, Li Qi gently freed himself and picked up his spare bone cones from his room. He headed straight for the dining tent. Derek sat at a table with a small animal skin pouch and a water bag in front of him. There isn't much food or water in these, but they're far more potent than ordinary supplies. They're meant to replenish stamina on the road. Don't waste them. Ordinary food and water can be obtained from the tribes you escort. They'll also provide supplies during migration. You're stronger than most of those weak tribes' fighters. Your main targets should be the leaders of Yao beast packs. Disrupt the groups. Don't just chase individual beasts. He pushed the pouch and water bag toward Li Qi as he outlined key tasks for the patrol. Li Qi tied them to the front of his gear and committed Derek's instructions to memory. All right, go, Derek said softly. Li Qi nodded, summoned his bone shield, and used it to fly into the sky toward Chaoguang City. Afterward, Derek watched Li Qi's receding figure until he was a speck in the distance. Chapter 5. Real Grassland. After leaving the family's station, Li Qi flew while studying the communicator on his wrist. Once he had familiarized himself with its functions, he opened the map. It showed the grassland under Chaoguang City's jurisdiction, with the pasture ranges of the various tribes on the outer grassland marked. From the size of a tribe's pasture, one could judge its strength. Powerful tribes occupied vast ranges near the inner grassland, where Yao beasts were abundant, serving as the first line of defense against beast incursions. Smaller tribes out on the outer grassland held tiny pastures. Some were so small they had to be outlined specially on the map. Li Qi scanned the marked tribes between the Royce family's station and Chaoguang City. There are quite a few tribes along the way, he thought, but only 9 are close enough to come to the family's shelter. 4 more are nearer to other refuges. He reviewed what he already knew about shelters and beast tides. Shelters formed whenever a beast tide hit, those periods when Yao beasts ran rampant. During a tide, planetary-level Yao beasts from the inner grassland often led groups of apprentice-level beasts out into the outer grassland. Occasionally, even a few astral-rank Yao beasts took part. Powerful tribes would gather their scattered people at their stations to consolidate defenses before the tide arrived. That left the outer grassland exposed. The weak tribes there could not stand against swarms of Yao beasts and had to temporarily relocate to larger tribes for protection. Over time, that became the shelter system. Li Qi made his plan. First, I'll notify the 9 tribes that could reach the Royce shelter to see if they'll migrate alone or together. Then I'll check with the other patrols to make sure the remaining 4 have been warned. Without further thought, he set off. About 10 minutes after he left, he reached the first tribe's pasture. He stopped the bone shield in midair and checked the map to estimate distance. When I push the bone shield to full speed, it should go 500 to 600 meters per second. I wasn't at full speed earlier, but I was still doing 3 to 400. 10 minutes of flight means the distance is about 200 kilometers. He considered whether those weak tribes could migrate 200 kilometers in a single day. From the air, he scanned the grassland until he finally spotted signs of life, a black dot with wisps of green smoke drifting up. He steered the bone shield toward it. As he drew closer, Li Qi couldn't hide his surprise. This weak tribe was larger than he had expected. He counted roughly 120 tents. 4 people per tent would be about 500 people, and not a single planetary level among them. By contrast, the Royce family had fewer than 100 residents, but 6 planetary level warriors stationed there permanently. He hovered above and took in the scene. The impact hit him harder than the beast tide 2 years earlier. Back then, as an apprentice level 7-stage Psyker master, he had seen older men at apprentice level 4 or 5 taking part in their first tide. He had been shocked then. Now he truly realized how unequal the world could be. Not every tribe was the Royce family. Groups of people were gathering in the open. Young adults stood guard with bows and arrows or spears, some with arrows already notched. The elderly, women, and children remained inside the tents, peeking through the fabric flaps. When they saw the newcomer wasn't a Yao beast, but a lone human descending from the sky, the young sentries relaxed and called the others out. Li Qi landed in an open space and surveyed them. Most were at apprentice level 5 or 6. Those with noticeably better weapons and equipment were at apprentice level 7 or 8. Apprentice level 9-stage warriors were scarce, only 2. He probed subtly with his mind power and confirmed it. 500 people and only 2 9-stage practitioners. No wonder this tribe was classified as weak. They watched him with equal curiosity. When they saw how young he looked, surprise spread across their faces. In their tribe, someone Li Qi's age would hardly be allowed to take part in an initial beast tide trial. His confidence in coming alone signaled that ordinary apprentice-level Yao beasts were probably no match for him. A tall, broad-shouldered, middle-aged man stepped forward. He was a 9-stage and clearly the clan chief. "I am the clan chief," he said. "May I ask who you are?" "Li Qi Royce," Li Qi replied. "Rank 11 of the Royce family, currently serving as a patrol." He opened the communicator and let the projection display the seal and notice from Chaoguang City. The clan chief read the message in stunned silence. He knew the common written language of the universe. When he finished, his expression confirmed the message. A new beast tide was imminent. Li Qi folded the device away. "Please arrange for your people to migrate to the Royce family's shelter as soon as possible. Time is short. I need to move on and warn other tribes." He rose back onto the bone shield and flew off. Beside the clan chief, a young man at apprentice level 8 leaned close. "Clan chief, he's a patrol. Could he be a planetary level powerhouse?" The chief shook his head and watched Li Qi's retreating figure with a complicated look. "No, he's an apprentice level 9-stage Psyker master. He's stronger than I am." "So young and stronger than you, clan chief. He really lives up to being from the Royce family." The young man's tone mixed admiration with envy. Li Qi went from pasture to pasture, calling one tribe after another. Night was falling by the time he finished notifying all 9 tribes that could reasonably migrate to the Royce shelter. He had also warned 3 more distant tribes. Only 1 tribe remained to be informed. Chapter 6: Family and Old Friends. At the Royce family home, Wenni called from the dining tent, anxious. "Where did 11 go? He never needs to be called for meals." She went to find Li Qi's father, Derek, and waited until he returned to question him. Derek hesitated under her interrogation, unsure whether to tell her that Li Qi had been made a patrol. When he stayed silent, Wenni's temper flared. "Speak, Derek." "Sigh." Derek gave a helpless sigh and then admitted, "I let 11 become a patrol." "A patrol? Derek, you can't be serious." Wenni was furious. "That's a post for planetary-level cultivators. You let an apprentice-level, 9th-stage kid like 11 take it?" Derek hurried to justify himself. With 11's strength, being a patrol is fine. Even a planetary-level, 3rd-stage Black Nightbird can't do much to him in a short fight. "Even so, you shouldn't have let him go. He's only 14. "He is 14, Derek agreed, then countered, "But don't you think 11 has grown complacent lately?" Wenni's voice softened a little. He's a bit lax, but he still shouldn't be a patrol. Why not? Derek asked. Do you understand the family situation? The family? Aren't we doing well? Wendy asked carefully. Has something happened? Derek shook his head. The family hasn't been in a good place for years. He told her the history. 40 years ago, because Ron Royce, second among the second generation, distinguished himself at the stellar cultivation camp among a sea of geniuses, the Royce family entered a peak period. The family founder, Royce, bypassed the usual path to a council seat and even ran directly for City Lord of Kaoguang. Derek continued, Father once had a real chance at the City Lord position, but after my second brother died at the stellar cultivation camp, Father lost that bid. Even his attempt to become a counselor was blocked. Now our family has 2 astral-rank powerhouses and 10 planetary-level cultivators. Our strength surpasses more than half the council families, yet our application for a council seat sits stalled in the council and won't advance. The reason is simple, Derek said. The family is relatively new, our foundations are shallow, and our sudden rise bred envy. To break the deadlock, we need Xiaoyi to get into the stellar cultivation camp and 11 to prove his talent at Chaoguang Academy and in the United Cultivation Camp. Their success could overpower the hostility against us. He paused and said with a tone of helplessness, but 11 has been too relaxed. If I don't push him, he probably won't change. It's also good to let him see the true grasslands. Listening quietly, Wenyi finally understood her husband's reasoning, but she remained worried. I'm still not at ease. Derek put his arm around her and reassured her. Don't worry, 11 will be fine. Wenyi leaned on him and nodded. Under the dim sky on the grasslands, Li Qi looked toward the tribal camps, their lights flickering in the distance, and finally felt a measure of relief. From the Royce family's encampment, he had ridden from tribe to tribe, body aching and spirit exhausted. The tribes he visited were weak, at most apprentice level, 9th stage, and he could only stop briefly before hurrying on. Each approaching beast tide threatened those tribes with devastating losses, not only in people, but in their herds of domesticated Yao beasts. From one tribe he learned that migrating Yao beasts coming from the interior often targeted larger domesticated Yao beasts first. Carnivorous Yao beast packs, if encountered, could wipe out a herd entirely. Domesticated Yao beasts were the lifeblood of the grassland tribes. Every part of them was useful. If a tribe lost most of its herds, it faced ruin. I am Li Qi Royce of the Royce family, currently serving as a patrol, he announced as he approached a camp, careful to stop 100 meters out to avoid misunderstanding. After a stir in the camp, a middle-aged man stepped forward. I am a Casey, leader of the Hahelu tribe, the man said. Li Qi projected the official message from Chaoguang City about the coming beast tide. Casey walked closer, confirmed the projection bore the city seal, and then regarded Li Qi under the pale glow. At first, the leader only thought the patrol looked very young. Then recognition dawned. Are you 11 of the Royce family? Casey asked. I am 11 of the Royce family. And you are? Do you remember the beast tide 2 years ago? We were in the same defense zone then. At the reminder, Li Qi's memory cleared. The defense zone commander who had guided him during his first beast tide trial was the same man standing before him. It's you, the uncle who commanded that defense zone. Casey's expression mixed happiness and a little melancholy. Time had passed. The boy who had needed his guidance 2 years ago and hadn't even had a proper name had grown enough to serve as a patrol. Casey himself remained at apprentice level, 9th stage. The jump from apprentice to planetary level had stopped many. Casey might be one of them. Li Qi's gratitude was genuine. You taught me a lot back then, I remember. Come in, Casey invited. It's already dark. It's inconvenient to travel. You can leave tomorrow. Okay. Li Qi had already planned to stay. They entered the Hahelu camp. In the firelight, Casey noticed the fatigue on Li Qi's youthful face. Thank you for warning us. Casey had seen the Chaoguang City notice earlier and knew how far Li Qi must have rushed to deliver it personally. I am a patrol. It's my duty, Li Qi said with a smile. By the way, has your tribe decided which shelter to go to? Not yet. We have to discuss it with the elders first. If your tribe plans to take refuge with the Royce family, I can accompany you along the way. Casey brightened. Really? Yes. With an apprentice-level 9th stage Psyker Master to guide them, their losses during migration would be much smaller, so long as they didn't encounter planetary-level Yao beasts. Akasi was delighted. That's wonderful. I'll persuade the elders to take refuge with the Royce family. Li Qi stayed the night with the Hahelu tribe, and early the next morning. Chapter 7. Attack during migration. At first light the next morning, Li Qi got up, washed quickly, and stepped out of his tent. Smoke curled into the sky. The camp that had been full of tents the night before was much emptier now. Many tents had already been taken down and loaded onto carts, with only a few left to dismantle. The whole Hahelu tribe was bustling, people coming and going, hauling goods, even children running about with bundles. Akez, who was directing the camp, hurried over when he saw Li Qi come out. He grabbed some bread from a passing clansman and handed it to him. Li Qi, you're up. Have some food. He offered a water skin as well. Li Qi accepted both, took a sip, and asked, Has your tribe decided where you're heading for shelter? Akez laughed. As soon as the clan elders heard you were returning to the Royce family, they insisted on coming with you. He gestured at the busy camp. We've been preparing since before dawn. We'll be on the road soon. Not long after, the Hahelu tribe started to move. Carts large and small surrounded the yoked long-haired beasts, forming a migration line that stretched for miles. Li Qi rode on an open four-wheeled cart pulled by a long-haired beast. His carriage was positioned near the middle so he could respond quickly, no matter which direction a Yao beast attacked from. Akez rode beside him, proudly displaying an ancestral spear with a tip made from weapon fragments. This spear's been passed down through 7 generations of clan chiefs, he bragged. They say the tip came from a weapon fragment used by an astral rank powerhouse. Li Qi listened, but didn't put much stock in the boast. He knew how valuable even a low-grade second-tier astral weapon fragment would be. Judging by the spear, he suspected the tip was more likely from a first-tier psychic or original force weapon fragment. They traveled through the morning and stopped at noon to rest and eat. Apart from a stray Yao beast or two, the journey had been uneventful. After lunch, they fed and watered the long-haired beasts, rested, and set off again. Not long later, an alarm whistle went up from the rear, followed by shouted warning, Yao beast group. Li Qi tossed his bone shield off his back. The shield spun up into the air and he leaped onto it, riding it like a flying platform. 16 bone cones materialized and hovered around him. The wind whistled past his ears as he shot toward the rear of the migration line. Akez watched him streak by and sighed in envy. As expected of a Psyker Master, he muttered. In just over 10 seconds, Li Qi reached the back. A pack of black-gray, single-horned wolf-like Yao beasts, over 40 heads in all, were swarming the tail of the procession. These wolves were typically around 4 meters long, some reaching 5 or 6. He recalled the information on them. Single-horned wolf, an apprentice-level 5-stage pack Yao beast at full growth. On the carts at the rear, more than 20 Hahelu warriors stood ready with long spears, thrusting whenever a wolf charged. Archers loosed arrows from behind, and in the center of the formation, an apprentice-level 9-stage elder called the shots. The pack's leader stood out, a massive single-horned wolf king, much larger than the others, flanked by 3 slightly smaller but still formidable wolves. Several arrows spun toward the wolf king, but it leaped aside with ease, its strength immediately clear. Li Qi narrowed his eyes. Killing intent rose in him. Die! The 16 bone cones shot out in a dazzling, with interwoven pattern that made their trajectories hard to track. The Wolf King moved with frightening speed to evade them, but Li Qi had them locked on. The bone projectiles struck true again and again. The Wolf King's body was torn, blood spraying and staining the grass and the fur of nearby wolves. One by one, the bone cones punched through thick hide that had never seen a weapon like this before. With a heavy thud, the Wolf King's wounded body hit the ground and ceased moving. Before the pack could recover, Li Qi split the bone cones into 3 groups and fired at the 3 large wolves beside the fallen king. Flesh was pierced, blood spattered, and the 3 toppled, dead or too grievously wounded to stand. Seeing their leaders fall, the remaining wolves hesitated. One turned and fled with its tail tucked. The rest followed, retreating as fast as they could. Only the dead and the cripples were left on the plain. Unbelievable! As expected of a patrol, he took the Wolf King down so easily. The Hahelu warriors cheered, voices full of admiration. The elder, who had been directing the defense, thanked Li Qi with a steady tone and ordered everyone to clear the battlefield. Li Qi recalled his bone cones, hovered above the clearing for a time to watch the recovery, then returned to his cart at the center of the line. The Hahelu warriors retrieved spears and arrows and began loading the fallen wolves onto carts to be butchered as they continued their migration. About an hour after the migration had resumed, the prairie ground ahead began to shift. The earth heaved and rose up from a distance, moving slowly until it stopped just beside the place where the single-horned Wolf King had died. On the third day, in the early morning, the migration proceeded as usual. Li Qi had just finished an aerial patrol and settled back onto the carriage in the center of the group. After running into a pack of one-horned wolves on the first day and linking up with another migrating team on the second, the caravan's number of apprentice-level 9-stage fighters had risen to 5. Before Li Qi had time to rest, urgent whistles rang out from both sides of the caravan. Axe sprang to his feet. "Something's happening. I'll go up and see." Li Qi launched himself into the air, the bone shield flying to his feet and carrying him upward. From a height of dozens of meters, he could see the whole caravan and 2 dense clusters of monsters advancing on the left and right flanks. "2 monster groups," he muttered, frowning as he dropped the shield to descend rapidly. He landed above the carriage, pointed to the right, and called, "Axe, support the right side. The pack coming from there is smaller. I'll take the left." He didn't wait for a reply and shot toward the left. Axe blinked in surprise. He hadn't expected an order, but recovered quickly and let out a strange shout. "Ula!" A heavy thudding of hooves announced a long-haired beast, 1.5 times the size of its fellows, arriving beside the carriage. Axe seized his ancestral long spear, vaulted onto the beast's back, patted its head, and the animal thundered toward the right flank. The domesticated beasts scattered to make way for him. Li Qi hovered above the left flank and took stock. About 300 to 400, he estimated, frowning. He scanned them closely. 1 kind of carnivore, 2 kinds of herbivores. Why are they mixed? That's rare, even in a beast tide. Unless... His expression hardened. Unless a planetary-level monster is leading them. Planetary levels were easy to spot, at least twice the size of their kin. He searched again, sweeping the mass of beasts for any sign of an enormous leader. He even glanced skyward for a flying monster, but the sky was clear. No clouds, no silhouette. "No sign?" he muttered, doubting his own deduction. He searched again, more thoroughly, but still found nothing. He couldn't wait any longer. The caravan was already engaged and people were falling into the fighting. He made his decision. First, take out the apprentice-level 9-stage leaders. Li Qi plunged toward the fray and hunted for the 9-stage monsters. He found one quickly, an apprentice-level 9-stage herbivore. The 16 bone cones that had been circling him launched at once, slicing through the air under his mind power. The monster sensed danger and tried to dodge, but the bone cones curved in a wide arc and slammed into its waist and belly. The impact sent it spinning. Normally, the thick hide and fat of an herbivore would thwart a carnivore of equal level, but these bone cones were forged from the teeth of planetary-level monsters, the edges honed by their deep cellular evolution. The cones punctured the beast's body cleanly and burst out the other side. Blood spurted, and the herbivore was flung several meters, landing on and crushing another creature beneath it. Li Qi marked the kill and redirected the bone cones. They streaked to a nearby apprentice-level 9-stage carnivore. The carnivore dodged nimbly, but not all the cones missed. Several pierced its flank and it fell. 2, he counted. He kept moving through the pack. Each time he found a 9-stage leader, the bone cones danced through the air and struck true. One after another, the leaders fell. After the last of the 9-stage monsters dropped, he sent the bone cones spinning low along the ground, cutting down more than a dozen apprentice-level 7- and 8-stage fighters that were still pressing the attack. With the collapse of their leaders, most of the attacking pack lost heart. Li Qi split the cones into 4 groups and sent them to finish off the remaining determined monsters still fighting the caravan's defenders. Flesh tore and monsters fell, Within moments, the greater part of the two attacking groups were dead or fleeing. The warriors on the carriages stared in stunned silence as the monsters they'd been locked with suddenly went still or dropped over, as if struck by unseen hands. When they looked up, they saw Li Qi hovering on his shield with 16 gleaming bone cones spinning beside him. The sight spread quickly among the observers. Amazing, as expected of a patrol adult, killing so many 9- and 8-stage monsters like it's nothing. That was so fast. How long did that take? Someone with a keen sense of time called out. Barely over a minute. He's probably not weaker than a planetary-level expert, another guessed. Maybe a little less, but not by much, a different voice added. Praise and awe rippled through the caravan, but Li Qi didn't bask in it. He was still working something over in his head. He hadn't seen any planetary-level monster leading the mixed packs. Had he been wrong? Had it simply been a rare coincidence? Then a thought struck him and his face went cold. No, that's not right. Chapter 9. Planetary-level burrowing beast. To the right of the migrating group, a horde of more than 100 riptooth beasts, carnivorous Yao beasts, launched scattered attacks. Riptooth beasts were cunning, vicious predators that lived in family packs. Adult ones reached apprentice level, 6th stage, looked like oversized lynxes at just over 2 meters in length, and relied on sudden bursts of speed, razor teeth, and quick, agile movements to hunt large, clumsy, herbivorous Yao beasts. The migrating group's warriors had plenty of experience against small, fast predators like these. Aside from a few expert archers who kept firing, everyone else grabbed bone shields and war knives and coordinated with the shield-bearing spearmen. A handful stayed behind to protect the archers, while the rest jumped down from the wagons in 3s and 4s to meet the attackers head-on. Kill! Roar! Human shouts and beastly howls mingled in a fierce, chaotic cacophony. It was an evenly matched fight, disciplined, well-armed people against sharp teeth and speed. In one squad, 3 warriors formed an unbreakable shield wall. Although riptooth fangs and claws ripped at the shields, they couldn't penetrate. After a spear thrust pierced one riptooth's flank, the other 2 swarmed in and finished it. Another fell moments later under the same concentrated assault. In another group, poor coordination cost them. A young warrior misstepped and took a bite to the neck, and the momentum swung in the predator's favor. Riptooth attacks were not like the dense waves of other Yao beasts. They struck in 2s or 3s, each small pack spaced tens of meters apart. By the time Akesi arrived on the back of his massive long-haired beast, dozens of skirmishes stretched across a front nearly 1,000 meters long. If other tribes hadn't reinforced the migrating group along the way, the Hahelu tribe alone would never have held such a line. Who? Akesi roared, driving his spear toward the nearest fight. He spurred the long-haired beast beneath him into a charging run. The beast was an apprentice-level 9-stage Yao beast. Its pounding hooves hit the ground like thunder. With a low, menacing growl, it bore down, lowered its head, and sent a riptooth blocking its path flying. The creature hit the ground with a sickening crash, lumbar bones shattered, blood spewing from mouth and nose, organs badly mangled. It lay barely breathing. Die! Akesi shouted, driving his spear through another riptooth's skull. 2 kills in quick succession, and he urged the long-haired beast on, crashing through several battle groups in a dozen seconds as he carved a bloody path forward. Then the ground erupted. Mud and grass burst outward, and something grayish-brown drilled up from the fractured earth, its bulk blocking Akesi's path. The object split open at the top to reveal a gaping maw 10 meters across. It was a Yao beast, only much, much larger than any riptooth. Not good! Akesi's heart dropped. He recognized the species the instant he saw it, a drill beast. Hairless, scaleless, armored with hide as tough as leather, with atrophied eyes and hypersensitive hearing and ground sense from living underground. Drill beasts usually matured to apprentice-level 8 stage, but this was different. The size of that maw told him this was a planetary-level drill beast. He had no time to think. He knew the long-haired beast under him couldn't stop its charge in time. He braced with one hand, leaped off the beast's back, shoved off with his foot, and flipped backward, just as the maw snapped shut where the long-haired beast had been. The great jaws swallowed the beast whole. Akesi, already airborne, narrowly avoided being pulled in. He felt the hot rush of air and the stench of reeking flesh as the mouth closed. He landed on the grass, skidding a meter as he used his hand to steady himself, and looked up at the place where the animal had been. Only a torn, bitten patch of turf remained. The drill beast paused a moment, then began searching, prying and listening to vibrations through the soil. Akesi gripped his ancestral spear and felt the weight of responsibility tighten in his chest. If that drill beast was not killed or badly wounded, the migrating group would be in grave danger. Drill beasts ate carrion and hoarded food. Once one found a prize, it would not stop until it had taken everything it could. He forced his mind to calm and quickly thought through options. He wasn't confident of the drill beast's exact cultivation stage, but he was certain he couldn't defeat it in a straight fight. He needed to stall for time until Li Qi arrived. Li Qi was a patrol. He would have experience and methods to deal with a planetary-level Yao beast. If even Li Qi failed, Akesi cut off the sinking thought and squared his shoulders. He had to hold his ground as best he could. The drill beast, after swallowing the long-haired beast, resumed its search for more prey. Listening and feeling the tremors in the ground, it locked onto another target and began to burrow. Akesi reacted. He slammed his spear into the earth with all his strength, shattering the soil and throwing up a shower of mud. A large, sunken pit yawned where he had struck. Then he stopped moving and held his breath. The drill beast froze, confused. Distant fighting threw noise and vibration across the plain. It could not precisely locate the source. After several tense seconds, the beast lowered its head to burrow again. Then another thunderous strike made it recoil, and this time it bellowed an enraged roar. It did not resume careful sensing. It launched a burring charge straight toward Akesi's position. "Damn it! Who said drill beasts need continuous sensing to lock onto targets?" he cursed, hearing only his own voice over the thunder of the creature. A dull brown mound of churned grass and soil raced toward him like a living battering ram. Akesi had no intention of going toe-to-toe with a planetary-level drill beast. He hadn't even seen his youngest son wed and had no desire to die early. If he could keep the beast occupied and away from the wagons and the rest of the migrants until Li Qi arrived, he would do it. He turned and ran. Chapter 10. Key to Breaking the Deadlock. Whoosh! Air shredded as a gray-white streak of light shot out from the left flank of the migrating group, streaking to the right. Riding his bone shield, Li Qi squinted toward the commotion. "I hope I'm wrong," he muttered. A few seconds later, he arrived. All around were battle lines, warriors of the migrating group clashing with Yao beasts. But there was no sign of a planetary-level Yao beast. Those were unmistakable, many times larger than ordinary beasts. Then a violent blast of earth and grass erupted nearby. Li Qi turned and saw a grayish-brown creature like a titanic earthworm, over 10 meters across, bursting from the ground with its maw, gaping to snap at a figure. The figure dodged with extreme speed. The maw missed, but the drill beast spat a plug of black-gray, viscous matter at the movement. The figure was engulfed and carried away while the monster slithered back under the soil. Li Qi steered his bone shield after the flying black-gray blob. Grayish-brown, earthworm-like, burrowing underground, enormous. This had to be a planetary-level drill beast. 16 bone cones guarding Li Qi shot out, one after another, aiming at the bulging grass where the drill beast's tunnel ran. The projectiles were lightning fast. Whoosh, boom, boom, boom. Each bone cone slammed into the ground and detonated the turf. They sank into the earth like skewers through butter and struck the drill beast's massive body. Powered by Li Qi's unusually strong mind power, the bone cones hit with force comparable to a planetary-level strike, driving the beast into the mud and momentarily pinning it. But the drill beast's gray, wrinkled skin was phenomenally tough. Even teeth-forged bone cones from a planetary Yao beast couldn't pierce it. The dents bounced back as if nothing had happened. The cones retreated into the soil and struck again. Boom, boom. Explosions followed in rapid succession. Dirt and grass sprayed everywhere, the air hazed with smoke. After 10 seconds, the assault stopped. Li Qi hovered and watched the churned ground full of pits. The 16 bone cones returned to him, forming a ring of silent guardians. 2 seconds later, the drill beast burst out somewhere else, roaring with fury. The recent strikes had constrained it, but done little lasting damage, enough pain to enrage it, not enough to fell it. Li Qi shook his head. Without a mind energy weapon, it's impossible to kill a planetary-level Yao beast. I can suppress it temporarily, but I can't finish it. He tapped his communicator and sent the preset distress signal with his location. That's done. Now I have to keep it occupied, maybe drive it off until help arrives. He thought fast. Drill beasts have poor vision. They hunt by sound and vibration. If he remained motionless in the air, it would have trouble finding him. He sent his will out and scattered the 16 bone cones again, sending them at the drill beast from every direction at different speeds. The monster twitched, sensing the incoming attacks, but the sheer number made it impossible to determine their source. Since the hits did little real harm, it didn't bother to dodge. Each cone thudded against its boneless bulk, thump, thump, bending and shaking the creature, but causing only limited injury. Somewhere beyond the writhing black-gray matter, a person crawled free on hands and knees, spitting and gasping. Tui! Tui! A Kessie hacked and wiped the foulness from his mouth. He peered at his empty right hand, then plunged back into the black sludge and hauled out his ancestral spear. When the drill beast had spat that black substance at him, a Kessie had been sure he was finished, swallowed or suffocated. But after more than 10 seconds with no movement, he risked crawling out. He froze at what he saw. An apprentice-level 9-stage psyker suppressing a planetary-level drill beast? He couldn't believe his eyes. An apprentice 9 can hold down a planetary, and he doesn't even have a mind energy weapon. A Kessie's worldview staggered. He studied Li Qi and realized what was happening, then grew worried. Li Qi's bone cones were sharp, but they couldn't pierce the drill beast's hide. Even if they could, the beast's musculature would neutralize much of the damage. At best, Li Qi could keep it restrained for a time. Worse, how long could Li Qi sustain that level of mind power? Li Qi's own reserves were a greater worry. He felt his mind power slipping, already below a third. The cone barrage was draining him. He couldn't keep this up indefinitely. Whether he could last until the planetary-level patrol arrived was uncertain. He scanned the battlefield and landed on a Kessie clutching his spear. Long spear, he thought. Among the apprentice-level 9-stage fighters, only a Kessie used such a spear. Li Qi guided his bone shield toward a Kessie and called out loud, "A Kessie, your long spear." At Li Qi's shout, the drill beast burrowed toward the sound. A Kessie, disoriented at first, snapped to when he heard long spear. He understood instantly. His spear was an ancestral heirloom forged with fragments of weapons from astral rank masters, made to deal with major threats. He threw the long spear without hesitation. Li Qi caught it with his mind power. Behind him, the ground bulged, and the drill beast surged in their direction. "Go," he shouted, then fired 4 bone cones into the soil. A Kessie knew his limits and ran the moment he let go of the spear. The bone cones slammed into the beast underground, slowing its advance for a heartbeat. The drill beast burst out with its huge maw snapping, lunging at Li Qi in the air. Li Qi had already climbed 30 meters higher the instant he released the cones. Even so, the gaping mouth could have swallowed him, and 10 more like him whole. Li Qi's eyes went cold. He raised the ancestral spear in his mind, felt the weapon align with his will, and shouted, "Die for me!" Chapter 11, Unspeakable. Die for me. Li Qi's gaze turned ice cold. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Axe's ancestral spear lunged forward, and behind it the 12 bone cones shot straight into the drill beast's gaping maw. The beast snapped its jaws shut, not to bite Li Qi, but to swallow the spear and the bone cones whole. Immediately its wrinkled hide twisted in agony. Pft! The sound of flesh tearing rang out as the spear and the bone cones burst back out of the drill beast's body. Skin that had shrugged off the bone cones before proved useless against the ancestral spear. The shaft drove through it as if it were paper. The spear, still bearing the bone cones, whirled through the air and plunged back into the creature. This time, Li Qi controlled it to wreak havoc from the inside. The drill beast's muscles were powerful enough to crush the spear's shaft, but the spearhead, sharp and steady, tore through organs while the bone cones shredded whatever they struck. Bloody holes opened in its innards. Fresh blood gushed out. Roar! The beast howled in pain, its body convulsing as blood spattered from its mouth, nose, and countless wounds. Too easy. Li Qi felt a rush of triumph. He had never really been able to harm higher-level foes before. he could only suppress them briefly. Facing a planetary-level drill beast was supposed to be beyond him, but Axe's ancestral spear made a mockery of that. Roar! The drill beast could no longer endure the internal assault. Driven by pure survival instinct, it lunged its head down and began to bore into the earth, intending to escape underground. Humph, dream on. When the drill beast tried to dig away, Li Qi simply halted the spear's rampage through its body and, with a thought, aimed the head and the bone cones straight for its brain. Bang! Bang! Pain struck the brain, and the drill beast's attempt to burrow was cut off. It thrashed wildly, smashing the ground with its tail. Each blow dented the earth, sending vibrations that flung up dirt and torn grass everywhere. The beast's death struggle lasted nearly 10 seconds, and a cloud of dust blanketed the area. From a distance, Axe, who had retreated some ways earlier, watched the commotion. When the trembling stopped and the loud sounds faded, he muttered, "Is that thing dead?" When the dust settled, Li Qi could see clearly. The drill beast lay motionless, its head and most of its body sunk into the churned mud. Only its tail and a small portion of its flanks remained above ground. The pounding had compacted the soil around its tail several meters lower than the surrounding earth. Because planetary-level Yao beasts possessed tremendous vitality and might feign death, Li Qi sent the spearhead and bone cones in for one more round of internal destruction. When the beast didn't react, he let out a relieved breath. The bone shield he'd been using drifted down. Li Qi shook his head, half amused and half sober. Their death throes are crazy. Pfft. With another sound of tearing flesh, the spearhead and bone cones burst out of the drill beast and flew back to Li Qi's side. The spearhead returned without a single bloodstain. Li Qi couldn't help but marvel. He suspected it was a fragment of a second-tier weapon once wielded by an astral rank expert. Li Qi! Axe hurried over the instant the fight ended. He threw his arms around Li Qi and squeezed him like a lifeline. "Thank you, Li Qi. You killed that planetary-level drill beast. You saved me. You saved the Hahalu tribe. You're a hero." When Axe had chosen to stall the beast, he'd accepted that he might be buried alive. When that black-gray unknown substance overwhelmed him, it had been Li Qi who arrived in the nick of time. Now an apprentice-level 9 stage, Li Qi had even slain a planetary-level drill beast and saved the entire migration team. How could Axe not be ecstatic? "I'm just a patrol. This is my duty," Li Qi replied modestly. Younger, poorer tribes had it rough on the grasslands. Li Qi had learned that since becoming a patrol. Axe let go, and grateful still said, "It's different. You are a patrol, yes, but you're only an apprentice-level 9 stage." Li Qi smiled and caught the slowly descending spear fragment, then handed it back to Axe. "Sorry, your ancestral spear is broken. Only this fragment remains." "It's fine. As long as the drill beast is dead, I don't care if the fragment is gone," Axe said. Li Qi handed the fragment over but warned, "This is probably a remnant of a weapon used by an astral rank expert. I used it to kill that planetary-level drill beast. From now on, don't mention its origin. If anyone asks, say it's a piece of a first-tier weapon used by a planetary level." Seeing Li Qi's tone was earnest, Axe understood just how valuable the piece might be. He'd thought his elders were exaggerating before. Now he understood why they'd spoken cautiously about the fragment. "I understand," he said solemnly. "Good, you rest. I'll go help with the other Yao beasts." Li Qi raised his bone shield to fly to the other warriors, but a golden streak of light cut across the sky from afar. Planetary-level expert, he thought, recalling the distress signal he had sent earlier. Had reinforcements come? The golden stream stopped not far from them and resolved into a middle-aged man in black armor, a silver greatsword slung over his shoulder. A faint aura of golden light shimmered around him. He looked down at the drill beast's corpse, sensed the residual power in it, and muttered, "Planetary level, 2nd stage." "Who sent the distress signal?" the man asked. "It was me. I'm a patrol too." Li Qi raised his left hand to show the watch-like black communicator strapped to his wrist. The man squinted at the device. "An apprentice-level 9-stage Psyker Master?" he said, then frowned. "Who killed this planetary-level 2nd stage drill beast? Were there any other planetary levels here?" "No," Li Qi replied. "I killed it myself." "What?" The middle-aged man's surprise was plain. "You killed it? How?" "Just luck," Li Qi said with a shrug. The drill beast was careless. I got inside it and finished it off with this first-tier weapon fragment, plus bone cones made from planetary-level Yao beast teeth. The man regarded him a long moment, then asked, "Which tribe are you from?" "Li Chi Royce, of the Royce family." "Royce family, no wonder." The middle-aged man relaxed. Only a wealthy family like the Royces could afford to equip an apprentice-level 9-stage Psyker Master with a communicator and deploy him as a patrol. "Since you killed it, I'll take no part in carving up the spoils." He cast one last look at the corpse, then became a golden streak and flew off in the direction he'd come. Li Chi steered the bone shield down and returned to Axe's side. "Don't mention the origin of that fragment," he reminded. "Don't worry." Axe patted his chest and then hesitated. "How should we deal with the body? The beast tide's coming. We have to hurry with the migration. Leave it here." Li Chi didn't care about a single planetary-level corpse. The Royce family had no shortage of such resources. "No," Axe grabbed Li Chi's sleeve. "How about our 2 tribes help you haul it back? Give us some materials in return." Thinking of the 2 struggling tribes in the migration team and how much a planetary-level hide could improve their elite warriors' survival odds, Li Chi agreed. "All right, fantastic. I'll finish dealing with the other Yao beast, then send some people to help." Axe beamed. As long as they could get some planetary-level hide to make armor, it would hugely improve the tribe's prospects. Watching Axe's exhilaration, Li Chi felt a complicated surge of emotion he couldn't easily name. Planetary-level expert. Chapter 12. Reward and Breaking the Sky. At noon, the sky was clear and the sun bright. After resting and dividing the spoils, the migration team set off again. Li Chi rode his bone shield above the column of wagons and people, looking down at the winding procession. Dozens of carts dragged the massive gray-brown corpse of the drill beast. As he patrolled the air, many in the caravan would instinctively look up. Seeing his silhouette gave them an instant, tangible relief. With this young patrol watching over them, they felt safe. The rumor had spread through the entire migration team. Li Chi had slain a planetary-level drill beast, and that news had greatly lifted everyone's spirits. They reached the Royce family several days later. Along the way, 2 small tribes joined them, and they ran into 2 minor Yao beast packs, but no serious trouble followed. The elders arranged for the tribes to resettle according to the family's plans, and then Li Chi excused himself and returned to the family grounds. 11. His mother, Wen Ni, cried the moment she saw him. She dropped what she was carrying and rushed forward to hug him. "I'm back, Mother," Li Chi said softly. "It's good you're back." Tears glistened in Wen Ni's eyes as she let him go. "Are you hurt anywhere?" "No, if you don't believe me, look." Li Chi spun in a full circle. "See? Nothing." The few days apart had made Wen Ni want to ask 100 questions, but she remembered her husband's instructions and forced herself to hold back. "Your father and 3rd brother are back. They said to tell you to go to the main tent when you returned." Li Chi nodded. "I'll go now." He greeted family members on the way and arrived outside the main tent. "Grandfather," he called respectfully. 11, come in," a voice answered from inside. The inner tent held several people, including his father, Derek. At the head sat Royce, the family's founder, broad-shouldered and dignified, a slight smile on his face. 11, you did very well," Royce said. "You saved 18 and 19, completed your patrol, and even slew a planetary-level Yao beast." Royce unfastened a beast skin pouch at his waist and handed it to a burly man beside him. That man, Ivanko, Li Chi's 3rd uncle, stepped forward and presented the pouch to Li Chi. Li Chi took it and looked inside. "3rd uncle, what is this?" Ivanko replied. "It's the family reward, 2 red dew pills. 7th brother will tell you how to use them." Li Chi's eyes lit up. He had heard of red dew pills, treasures even rarer than purple-orange fruits. Royce added, "Also, Xiaoyi left a gift for you. I placed it in your home. I won't spoil it for you. Go back and find it after you rest. Don't waste what Xiaoyi prepared." "What kind of gift?" Li Chi wondered, but Royce only waved a hand. "Go back, rest, and study what you gained today." "Yes, grandfather." Li Chi bowed and turned to leave. Ivanko's voice stopped him. 11. 3rd uncle? Ivanko's tone was stern. "The beast tide is approaching. 12 and 13 will take part in the first beast tide trial. You'll command their defense zone." "Right away." Li Qi's voice was firm. This was an order given in Ivanko's capacity as shelter guardian. Refusal was not an option. Ivanko's expression softened. Go home and rest. Derek, you go with him. Derek nodded and joined Li Qi as they left the tent. On the walk back, he asked casually, You were out on patrol on the grasslands for days. What did you think? Li Qi pictured everything he had seen. After a moment, he said, It's very hard for small tribes on the grasslands. One Yao beast attack could wipe them out. Derek studied him and shook his head. Not just that. Li Qi blinked. What do you mean? You'll understand when you visit Chaoguang City, Derek said vaguely. They returned home and Derek disappeared into the inner room, emerging with a silver-white metal box. This is from your eldest brother. Li Qi opened it. Inside, a row of 20 silver-white blades lay neatly arranged. A sweep of his mind power counted 20 items. The blades varied, some uniformly thick, others tapered, but all seemed keenly, visibly sharp. Are these mind energy weapons? Li Qi asked, excitement and curiosity in his voice. Ask your eldest brother, Derek said with a smile, then took Li Qi's wrist communicator and dialed. A few busy beeps, then a light screen came alive, showing an unfamiliar face. A young woman in a dark green combat suit filled the frame, handsome and poised. She ran a hand through her long hair with a casual grace. He's taking a shower. I'll call him, she said, then called into the off-screen. Eric, your family is looking for you. Wait a moment, came Eric's voice, and then he appeared on screen. Shirtless, shorts on, hair still damp. The woman stepped back into the frame and offered an introduction. I'm Daya. I'm Eric's friend and teammate at the United Cultivation camp. I'm Eric's seventh uncle, Derek, Derek replied, then gestured at Li Qi. This is my son, Li Qi, Eric's 11th younger brother. Daya smiled and inclined her head. Hello, seventh uncle. Then she turned to Li Qi. 11. Eric talks about you a lot. He says you're a genius and that you'll join the United Cultivation camp with us one day. She added with a mischievous smile. I didn't expect you'd be not only a genius, but such a cute boy. Li Qi's cheeks flushed. He wasn't used to compliments like that. Eric, still appearing on the screen, caught the playful exchange and laughed. Go on home first. I have something to discuss with them here. I'll come find you later, he told Daya. She looked reluctant, but left obediently. Derek teased. Xiaoyi, Daya? Is she going to be your wife? Eric grinned broadly. Daya will be my wife one day. Derek's face fell into a brief, comfortable nostalgia. I heard grandfather say your parents met at the Stellar Cultivation camp. Eric cut him off with a wry smile. When I first entered the United Cultivation camp, I focused only on cultivating. I never thought about romance, but after I met Daya, his smile carried something like gentle embarrassment. Things changed. Xiaoyi, Derek began, then let it go. Eric steered the conversation back. 11. Did you receive my gift? Yes. Li Qi placed the metal box on the table. Are these mind energy weapon fragments? Eric laughed. You underestimate your eldest brother. These aren't fragments. They're incomplete mind energy weapons. Li Qi frowned. What's the difference? Eric explained patiently. A full mind energy weapon is made of dozens, sometimes hundreds of small basic components. If a weapon is missing just a few parts, it's incomplete. The power is reduced, but repairable. If it's missing too many parts, the remaining pieces can't function as a proper weapon. They're just fragments, sharp but useless for true combat. In between those extremes are incomplete weapons. The remaining components can still channel some of the weapon's power. They have real value for use and repair. He added, some low-grade mind energy weapons are actually simplified versions of higher-grade ones, basically incomplete high-grade weapons. What I sent you is one of those, an incomplete mind energy weapon made up of 20 basic components, the Po Xiao sword. Chapter 13. Big Brother, listening to Eric's words through the light screen, Delacour's brows tightened. Psionic weapon, force weapon, and force armor, all three were controlled items on Kukastar, obtainable only through official channels by exchanging contribution points. It was normal for Xiaoyi, a martial artist and a student at the United Cultivation camp, to have a Tier 1 force weapon, but a damaged psionic weapon? That was highly unusual. Xiaoyi! Delacour urged, voice tense. How did you get this damaged psionic weapon? You mustn't do anything that breaks the Empire's laws. Eric looked startled for a moment, then quickly guessed the source of his third uncle's worry. He smiled and explained, "Third uncle, don't worry. This Po Xiao sword came to us during a prairie trial. Not only did I get one, but the other 4 on my team did as well. None of us smuggled it." Delacour's shoulders finally relaxed. Smuggling controlled weapons was a grave crime on Kuka Star. Anyone involved would be punished harshly. He had feared his promising nephew might be ruined by such a scandal. Seeing third uncle calm again, Eric continued to Li Qi. 11. Besides the Po Xiao sword, I had a friend in the virtual universe fetch a secret manual for me. As for how to learn and use the Po Xiao sword properly, it's best to ask sixth uncle. After all, he's the only planet-level psyker master in the family and has experience with psionic weapons. Li Qi opened the Po Xiao sword's case and found a hidden compartment at the bottom. Inside was a thin booklet. Having been taught the universe's common language since childhood, he had no trouble reading the title, Cloud Soaring Sword, detailed explanation of the Po Xiao sword. "Thanks, big brother," he said. "Since the gift's been delivered, it's time we got down to business." Eric looked at Delacour. "Third uncle, could you step out for a moment? I'd like to speak to 11 alone." "All right." Delacour nodded and left. When the light screen dimmed to the two of them, Eric sighed. 11, you've been a bit lazy these past few years." Li Qi said nothing, only nodded. "I know what you're thinking," Eric said gently. "You love the family and don't want to leave." Li Qi's head snapped up, surprised. He had never told anyone that. How did Big Brother know? "Because you don't want to leave the family, you've been stalling," Eric went on. "You're postponing the day you'll have to leave, saying you'll only go to Guang Academy after you turn 16. "How did you know?" Li Qi asked. Eric smiled. "Because I thought the same way." Hearing that, Li Qi blinked. It rang true. Before he was even born, Eric had already gone to Chaoguang Academy to cultivate. Whenever he came home, he played with his younger siblings. Even after he left for the United Cultivation Camp and couldn't return so often, he still made time for video calls. Li Qi smiled. "So you used to think that too. Are you going to persuade me, big brother?" "Persuade? Of course I'll persuade you," Eric said. "You've been to the prairie and seen how those weaker tribes live. What do you think of them compared to our Royce family?" Li Qi hesitated. The comparison was obvious. "They're weak, right?" Eric continued before waiting for an answer. "Not only are they vulnerable to planet-level monsters, even a slightly larger pack of Yao beasts could wipe out a whole settlement." Li Qi nodded. He had seen the prairie tribe's lives. There was no comparison with the Royce family. "And our living conditions?" Eric asked. "There isn't one," Li Qi said. "No comparison." "Go to Chaoguang City," Eric said suddenly. "Chaoguang City again," Li Qi frowned. His father had said the same. Why did everyone respond with, "You'll understand when you go to Chaoguang City"? Couldn't they be direct? Seeing his confusion, Eric added softly, "Some things can't be described with words. You have to see and experience them. 11, grandfather, third uncle, and the elders all have high hopes for you. They see you as the family's future." "What about you?" Li Qi asked. "Aren't you the family's hope?" Eric shook his head. "A family can't hang everything on one person. You can't have only one pillar." Li Qi murmured and thought of the old stories. The Golden Horn race had a single pillar in Hiroto. After his fall, their status collapsed and they were forced to rely on others. He understood Eric's point. "Think about what we talked about today," Eric said, "and I still suggest you visit Chaoguang City, even if you don't go to Chaoguang Academy right away." Li Qi drew a breath. If he could avoid Chaoguang City, he would. Human technology in the universe was advanced. Going there might expose the secret of his body, but if he refused, he couldn't remain with his family. Helpless, he nodded. "All right, big brother, I'll go to Chaoguang City." "That's enough. You're willing to go," Eric said, pleased. "I think you'll change your mind once you've been there." Satisfied, Eric picked up a piece of clothing and dressed. "Let's end our chat for today. I need to train movement techniques with Daya, signing off." When the screen went dark, Li Qi smiled. He was glad Eric had someone he loved. Then the smile faded as he wondered silently, what secret does Chaoguang City hold? Unable to guess, he looked down at the metal case with the Po Xiao sword and the thin manual. He opened the booklet and read carefully. The manual stated that to use the Po Xiao sword, one's psionic amplitude had to reach 8, Each additional Poshao sword raised the required amplitude by 1. With his ability to control 16 bone cones simultaneously in attack, he should meet that psionic amplitude requirement. But how to trigger the secret patterns was still unclear. I need to find Sixth Uncle, he decided. He put the manual back into the case, closed it, and set off for Sixth Uncle Garabel's house, the metal box tucked under his arm. Chapter 14. Talent under a large tree outside the family residence. Li Qi and Sixth Uncle Garabur sat facing each other. Between them lay a silver metal box that contained the Poshao sword. The Poshao sword is only a rudimentary psionic weapon. Its requirement for mental power amplitude is very low. With your level, having completed the third stage of the controller's basic 28 forms, your mental power amplitude is more than enough, Garabur said. Li Qi nodded. The manual had clearly stated that a single Poshao sword required an amplitude of 8, which was not high. First, try to activate the Poshao sword, Garabur instructed. Then I'll give you targeted guidance. All right. Li Qi moved his thought, and the 20 blades in the metal box rose and slithered out like a winding snake. Combine, he whispered. The blades clanged together and quickly assembled into a single silver short blade without a hilt. Li Qi held the assembled sword up to Sixth Uncle. How is it? Garabur frowned as he examined the formed but unawakened weapon. A psionic weapon is not used like that. Haven't you read the manual Xiaoyi gave you? I read it. It says to combine and manipulate it with mental power, Li Qi replied. That's what I did. Garabur's thought shifted. The thin manual floated into his hand. After a quick skim, he shook his head. This manual is lacking, missing crucial knowledge. First, release control of the Poshao sword. I'll show you how a psionic weapon is truly used. Li Qi withdrew his mental power. The barely assembled sword fell apart into 20 blades. Garabur extended his mental power, and the falling blades reassembled into the silver blade with a clang. A faint white light shimmered along it, and a subtle buzzing sounded. Go. Garabur gave a soft command. The short blade instantly transformed into a streak of silver-white light and shot toward a distant tree. There was no thunderous boom, only a thin whistling as air was cut. Only after the light had passed did a branch break and fall from the tree. Li Qi's heart leapt. The Poshao sword's speed was so great he hadn't even registered its target until the branch hit the ground. The blade returned with a soft whoosh, solidifying again into a short silver sword suspended in the air. See, this is how you use a psionic weapon, Garabur said. It's about activating and driving the secret patterns inscribed on the weapon. Now you take control, he continued. Then activate the secret patterns the way I teach you. I'll tell you what to do. Follow my instructions. Garabur let his mental power go. The sword disintegrated into blades. Li Qi seized the mental thread, reassembled the Poshao sword, and focused. Divide your mental power into 8 strands, Garabur instructed. Use those 8 strands to slowly activate the secret patterns, starting at the hilt and moving toward the tip. Keep the 8 strands at the same strength, each at the level you'd use to attack with a full-power bone cone. Li Qi followed the directions. The 8 strands of his mental power spread across the blade and began to trace the secret patterns from the hilt with full force. A faint buzzing rose, and a pale white light bloomed at the hilt, flowing along the blade toward the tip. Just as the light neared the point, the glow vanished. Everything went dark. The activation failed. Li Qi did not pout. If anything, he was exhilarated. He'd nearly succeeded. He'd simply lost the balance between the 8 strands at the last moment. He'd been close. Garabur watched with a composed face, but his heart stirred. 11's talent is astonishing. He almost activated the Poshao sword on his first try, he thought. Everyone in the family agreed that 11 was highly gifted because of his terrifying comprehension ability. He seized understanding instantly. That kind of talent was something they'd only ever seen in Ron Royce, the prodigy crowned the greatest genius since Kuka Star became a cultivation world hundreds of thousands of years ago, an astral rank expert before 50, praised even by the great Lava Emperor. Garabur felt both admiration and a strange kinship. He'd seen that same flash in 11. He reminds me of my second brother, Garabur mused. Ha! I did it, Sixth Uncle. Li Qi's voice was bright. A silver-white short sword, wrapped in pale light, floated in the air. Garabor nodded approvingly. Good. You activated the Poshao sword on your second attempt. But you must be quick, Garabor added. If it takes you long to activate the sword, you won't survive in a real fight. Enemies won't give you time to prepare. You must be able to awaken and deploy the psionic weapons swiftly. I understand, Li Qi agreed. His second attempt had succeeded, but not yet at combat speed. The second or two it took could decide life or death against a planetary-level opponent. Garabor rose to leave, then paused. He turned back to Li Qi with a serious expression. The beast tide is predicted soon. When it comes, 12 and 13 will be entrusted to you. Li Qi straightened and patted his chest. Don't worry, Sixth Uncle. I'll protect 12 and 13. I won't let them get hurt. That's good. Garabor nodded, then departed. 12 and 13, Li Qi mused as he watched his uncle go. He pictured the two younger siblings. 12, an honest, modest child who kept a low profile in the family, and 13, a mischievous little terror who had loved to challenge Li Qi since childhood and never won. At first, Li Qi had found 13's provocations amusing. Lately, he found them infuriating. Imagine someone suddenly appearing while you're on the toilet, brandishing a wooden sword and issuing a challenge. How could you not be annoyed? A grin spread across Li Qi's face despite the memory. I wonder what expression 13 will make when he sees I'm the commander of his defense zone, he thought, amusement and anticipation mingling. He couldn't help smiling. Chapter 15, The Beast Tide. 3 days later, at the Royce family encampment. The Royce camp sat in a valley ringed by low mountains. Usually quiet slopes were now crowded. Migrating tribes had led the old, women, and children up onto the ridges, while the young and able set up defensive lines at the foot of the mountains, bracing for the beast tide. After the recent attack by a planetary-level monster, everyone feared this tide would be worse than usual, so the defenses had been reinforced and made sturdier than ever. Beast tides traditionally followed Kaoguang City's warning by 10 days to a fortnight, and this time was no different. The timely arrival eased the worst of the anxieties. Li Qi hovered on his bone shield above his assigned sector. Dozens of fighters were arrayed behind a long gully below. His zone was at the rear, safer than the front lines, and therefore many here were inexperienced. 3 or 4 out of 10 were facing their first beast tide. Most of the rest were on their second. Only a few were seasoned veterans. From his height, Li Qi watched the men below with a casual amusement. Young warriors always envied anyone who could fly. A boy called 12, about 12 or 13 years old, stood in leather armor with a saber and a shield, staring up at him with a defiant look. Li Qi clicked his tongue, amused by the brat, then shifted his gaze upward. Black specks wheeled in the clear blue above, shishi birds, the grassland scavengers, gathering wherever death stirred. The shishi are increasing, Li Qi murmured. The tide will hit in a day or two. Having been through one beast tide and schooled by a Kessi, Li Qi was more experienced now. About 2 hours later, the horizon darkened with countless black dots, the air filled with avian cries. The ground trembled as if monstrous beasts rolled beneath the earth. A shadowed mass swept across the green grass, hooves, roars, avian wings above, 10,000 beasts in motion. Li Qi shouted down to his men, "Beast tide's here!" The rookies scrambled for armor and weapons, faces tightening as if to meet a fearsome foe. The veterans, however, snarled them down. "Don't burn through your stamina now," one barked. "The tide won't hit the rear in full force yet. Conserve yourselves. Panic wastes lives." Under the veterans' steadying shouts, the new men relaxed, posture measured, waiting for the horde to reach their line. Humans answered the tide. 2 brilliant lights rose from the valley, and then dozens more streams of light converged. Planetary-level experts flown in from all directions, meeting the Royce family's 2 astral-rank experts. Small groups of them split off and dropped to various sectors to reinforce defensive lines. Others dove straight into the swirling masses of shishi birds. Once inside the avian horde, their lights vanished into the darkness. None of the beams could push through at first, but the constant falls of birds showed the horde took heavy losses. Gaps opened, and the experts slipped out to regroup, only to dive back in again. Their repeated sorties kept the avian swarms from overflying the camp. Watching them from above, Li Qi couldn't help but praise under his breath. Force armor is incredible. They go in and out of the sky horde without stopping. On the plain, the terrestrial portion of the tide met the front-line defenses. From his vantage, Li Qi saw the dark mass of beasts strike the front and then begin to wheel around the flanks, trying to encircle the valley. He dropped his bone shield to a lower patrol height and scanned the crush of bodies for anything larger. Planetary-level monsters often hid among the horde. The ground shook again as a mix of carnivores and grazers surged forward. Veterans hammered reminders into the rookies. Don't panic. Hold the line. Don't rush. The gullies cut through the terrain, forcing the horde to slow. Beasts stumbled and collided as they tried to cross one trench after another. Rear animals, unable to break, smashed into those in front, creating chaotic piles of bodies for a time. When a few beasts finally crossed a gully and neared the trenches, a veteran shouted and charged. He used his bone shield to batter a beast off balance, then finished it with a saber, quick, efficient. The veterans who led the charge were deadly precise. The first wave they met fell quickly. The semi-newcomers on their second tide mirrored the veterans' moves, and soon the rookies understood by watching. These men had been trained for years. Even first-timers adapted fast. While the fighting below remained fierce, Li Qi scanned relentlessly. He had two priorities: watch for planetary-level threats and keep an eye on his younger brothers, 12 and 13. His gaze stilled when he spotted something large within the horde, an enormous unicorn wolf, far bigger than the level 9 apprentice he'd slain a certain 10 days earlier. Planetary-level monster, he thought. He pulled the bone cone he'd been flinging out. Its segments retracted into the beast's skin pouch at his waist, and then sent 20 silver-white blades flying. They clanged together and coalesced into a short sword that gleamed like moonlight. Po Xiao sword, go! The weapon blurred into a sliver of light and shot at the unicorn wolf. The stream of light cut through any Yao beast that dared stand in its path, gashing creatures like paper and painting the plain with blood. The unicorn wolf was nimble for its size and twisted to evade. It dodged 3 strikes, but its bulk betrayed it. The Po Xiao sword pierced its flank and hung there, then split into 20 blades that shredded inward. The beast howled, rolled, and thrashed, its hind leg mangled and its insides shredded. The howl was a planetary-level roar. Nearby beasts froze. One veteran recognized it at once. "Planetary-level monster," he shouted. The injured unicorn wolf tried to flee, knocking aside a blocking beast and cutting a chaotic path through the melee. Li Qi kept the Po Xiao sword on it, forcing the weapon to mimic the wolf's evasions. The wolf's clever direction changes made the chase messy and drew more beasts into the path, spreading confusion through the horde. The unicorn wolf collided with another beast in a desperate feint, and Li Qi seized the moment. The sword's blades tore into the wolf's hind leg, then dove straight into its innards. Li Qi thought, "Now, split!" The blades scattered again, shredding the creature from the inside out. The wolf howled, rolled in agony, and fell. In a final movement, Li Qi recombined the blades into the sword and drove it through the beast's heart and skull. The unicorn wolf collapsed, dead. The sight of a planetary-level monster felled by a single weapon sent a ripple through the defensive line below. A rookie who had never seen such a kill shouted in excitement. Others pointed up at the returning sliver of light. The Po Xiao sword reformed and flew back to Li Qi's hand. A veteran looked up and understood immediately. "Commander, he killed it!" Praises and exclamations rose. "The commander? An apprentice rank 9 killed a planetary-level monster? He killed one during the last migration, too." The clamor carried upward like wind. Li Qi watched the faces below, basking briefly in the murmurs and adulation. Then his eyes snagged on 2 familiar figures near the trench, 12 and 13. 13's expression had shifted. For a moment his eyes mirrored everyone else's admiration. Li Qi wondered inwardly at the sight. He had expected 12 to be proud, maybe even boastful, but seeing 13 impressed him in a way he hadn't anticipated. Li Qi shook off the surprise. He didn't entirely believe a single kill could sway 13 so. The first wave of the tide thinned and began to recede, but Li Qi knew better than to relax. The second wave was already forming out on the plain and would crash against them soon. He pulled his shield up higher, the Po Xiao sword secure at his side, and prepared for whatever came next. Chapter 16. The future of the family is in your hands. Dusk burned along the horizon, the clouds looking like they were set afire. On the ground lay hundreds, maybe thousands of Yao beast corpses. The several-day-long beast tide had finally ended. Li Qi hovered above on his shield and looked down at the people in the defense zone below. It's finally over, he thought. Compared to the neighboring defense zones, his had suffered very light losses, only a handful of deaths. That was the result of his relentless efforts to save people. Those who had died fell on the first day, when the Yao beasts were most numerous and the fighting fiercest. After several days of brutal struggle, it was time to collect the spoils. He scanned the line of carcasses along the first defense line. Apprentice-level 9th-rank Yao beast corpses were especially valuable to weaker tribes, and such corpses were normally scarce. Only a beast tide could produce them in numbers. 12, 13, Li Qi called to his 2 younger brothers, summoning them back to the family. They were not going to take part in the materials distribution. Their performance in the tide had been good. Having completed their first beast tide trial, they were considered adults now and were entitled to receive their own names. On the way back, he glanced at the 2 exhausted boys and felt relieved. They were ordinary family martial artists, apprentice level with 6th rank physical qualities, normal for the clan. Li Qi, by contrast, was exceptional. Even at apprentice level, he could suppress planetary-level Yao beasts. Especially after acquiring the Po Xiao sword, he had slain 2 planetary-level beasts during the tide, an achievement that might be beyond many planetary-level fighters. Once they arrived at the family hall, the brothers underwent physical exams and were then taken home by their parents. After a wash and some purple-orange fruit, they fell into deep, healing sleep. 11. Good work. Garabur approached and praised him. 12 and 13 are only exhausted, not injured. I think 11 sheltered 12 and 13 too much, Derek said as he came over. That kind of first trial might not be good for them. How is that a bad thing? Great Father Halu interjected. I don't think 11 did anything wrong. Not every young one has the talent of Xiaoyi in 11. Old 7, you're too extreme. Halu glanced at Derek and sighed quietly. Old 7's personality is stubborn. Maybe that's what influenced 11. Derek only shook his head and left. Watching his father walk away, Li Qi felt the same unease. His father's methods could be harsh. He'd made Li Qi a patrol at apprentice level and reportedly taken his eldest brother out on the grasslands to fight carnivorous Yao beasts. 11. Your father admired your second dad most, Holu said, slapping Li Qi's shoulder. He believed that only by witnessing the grassland's cruelty could you become a true powerhouse. Only then could you change Kukastar's future. Change Kukastar's situation? Li Qi asked, puzzled. Yes, that's what second dad wanted. Halu sounded wistful. Li Qi didn't press it. Stop thinking so much. Go bathe. Halu laughed and shoved him playfully. I can smell you. You stink. Hounded away, Li Qi sniffed himself and did detect a faint odor. After washing, a hungry Li Qi headed for the family dining tent. He'd barely eaten a few bites when a familiar voice called out, All adult members of the family assembly. He swallowed and headed toward the main tent. To his surprise, everyone who was an adult in the family was already there, including 12 and 13, who should have been sleeping off their exhaustion. The atmosphere in the spacious tent was heavy and somber. At the far end, 3 people sat with sorrowful expressions. I'll show everyone the recording, Grandfather Ron Royce said, indicating Halu. Halu stepped forward and projected a light screen from his wrist communicator. A man's handsome face streaked with blood filled the screen. Big brother. Li Qi felt his chest clench. A very bad feeling crawled through him. It's Eric Ron Royce. If anyone finds this recording, please deliver it to my family. Eric's voice trembled as he spoke into the communicator. The light screen shook. It was clear he had placed the device some distance away. As he moved back, the image revealed a woman lying on the ground under a pink blanket. Her face was delicate and beautiful, pale and lifeless, a smear of blood at one corner of her mouth. She lay like a sleeping beauty, quiet, tragic. Daya! Li Qi's throat tightened. He knew the name as soon as he saw her. Eric returned to the frame and carefully lifted Daya into his arms. The United Cultivation Camp was attacked by a pack of Yao beasts led by several astral rank beasts, he said, voice laced with death chi. One of them has a domain. The room went silent. Astral rank Yao beasts were rare in the camp's core grassland range, where mid to high-level planetary beasts roamed, and trainees routinely hunted planetary-level beasts. Occasionally an astral would be born, but multiple astral rank beasts, one with a domain, made no sense. Daya is dead, Eric continued. So are several of her companions. Many instructors fled. Only a few stood to fight those astral beasts. They won't last. Bang! A sudden explosion of sound from the recording made people flinch. Eric turned toward it and then spoke again, voice bitter but steady. There was a time I hated Father. Hated him for not running when faced with a universe rank, for staying when there was no hope. He lowered his head and stroked the hair of the woman in his arms. Now, I understand. A Yao beast's roar echoed faintly on the recording. Eric did not flinch. Sorry, grandfather. Sorry, seventh dad. Sorry to all family members. I have failed your expectations. He set Daya down as gently as if she might wake. The frame showed him stand, reach out of view, and pull free a greatsword. He rested it on his shoulder, and with blood streaked half his face to the camera, said, I'm going to do something worth risking my life for. He gave Daya one last look. A fiery red light erupted from his upper body and spread like burning flame until it engulfed him completely. Boom! The blaze on the recording billowed outward, warping the air and baking everything around it. Wisps of smoke rose. Before the light consumed the scene, Eric's last words carried through the tent to every ear. 11. The future of the family is entrusted to you. Tomorrow, Volume 1 ends. Chapter 17. Determination. Big Brother. Lychee bowed his head, one hand covering his face as tears streamed without stopping. He understood his brother's choice. Love could be irrational. In his previous life, he had seen news of lovers dying together, but he never expected it to happen to him in this life. Because of it, he had lost a member of his family. Delacour stood with his mouth slightly open, eyes wet, disbelief written across his face. Halu looked crushed, spiritless, as if sickened by grief. He had raised Royce's eldest son, had been more than a biological father to him, and yet now an old man with white hair was sending off a young black-haired one. How could he not be devastated? The older generation had been through much, but the pain in their hearts was still immense. Every member mattered in this family of fewer than 100 people. They forced themselves to hold their composure, not wanting to break down in front of their nephews and nieces. Woo-woo, big brother, 12 sobbed, choking. 13's low, restrained cries followed. No one spoke. The main tent remained heavy with sorrow for a long time. After a long silence, Royce, the family founder, finally spoke. I know Xiao Yi's passing has broken all of us. He was the family's pride, an outstanding elder brother. Compared to the rest, Royce was calmer. Life had hardened him. He had been sold as a slave to Qianwu Universe Country and had been rescued by the Lava Empire. He had a long, bitter history, and that steadiness let him soothe the family's grief. Xiao Yi would not want us to drown in sorrow, he continued. Those of us still living must look forward. That's right, others echoed. Big Brother wouldn't want us to stay sad. He'd want us to be strong and carry on. Their emotions eased a little. Royce turned to Halu. Eldest, prepare for Xiao Yi's send-off. Yes, father. Halu forced himself to move, calling for help to set up the funeral. He had never expected the gentle, graceful Xiao Yi to meet the same desperate fate as his father. Night fell and the family gathered for the funeral. The usual boisterous youngsters were unusually quiet, subdued beneath the oppressive atmosphere. After the ceremony, the adult males of the family remained together in silence, solemn and still. Beep! Royce's wrist communicator let out a sharp tone reserved for important messages. When he opened it, the message on the screen changed the expression of the veteran who had seen so much. Respected 3-star user, your ranch at Kuka Star, coordinates xxxx.xxxx, has an application. 3-star user Rudder Holke is requesting privileged access to the usage rights of this ranch. Because you currently hold priority usage rights for this ranch, you may freeze these rights for 5 years by consuming contribution points. During that 5-year period, users below 5-star cannot acquire the ranch. If after 5 years you do not have the privilege to reject the application, 3-star user Rudder Holke will obtain the usage rights to the ranch. If you wish to consume contribution points to freeze the ranch, please reply. Contribution points were the currency for planetary cultivation in the Lava Empire. Privileged status, however, was a symbol reserved for those who had cultivated a genius. Only by producing a genius who entered the stellar cultivation camp could a family acquire such privileges. Royce's face drained of color. He gritted his teeth and spat the name, Rudder Hulk. On the day the family had lost an invaluable member, the Holka family's attempt to seize their ranch infuriated him. Ivanko, Royce's third eldest standing beside him, recited what little information he had. Rudder Holka was a constant star level 7, clan chief of the Holka family in Chaoguang City and a council member there. Father, we need to pool our contribution points and freeze the ranch first, Ivanko said, composedly. Third eldest, transfer your contribution points to me, Royce ordered. They combined their points and immediately applied to freeze the ranch. Quietly, telepathically, the two men agreed they would tell the family about the crisis. Ivanko explained the threat to the others. The situation is like this, he began. When he finished, Li Qi sprang to his feet with a swish. Grandfather, take me to Chaoguang City. I want to take the Chaoguang Academy entrance exam. Everyone turned to him. After hearing the news, their first thought had been Li Qi. If anyone in the family had the best chance of entering the stellar cultivation camp, it was him. Royce asked softly, 11, have you thought this through? Li Qi's voice was steady. Big brother entrusted the family's future to me. I won't fail him. Royce's eyes glistened. Tomorrow you'll go to Chaoguang City with us. After the funeral, Li Qi returned home. Delacour was already there and patted his shoulder. 11, the family's future is on your shoulders. If he could, Delacour would carry it himself, but his talent wasn't good enough. He had to place his hopes on the younger generation, the likes of Xiao Yi and his son, 11. I will not disappoint, big brother, Li Qi promised, determination setting his features. The ranch will not fall into someone else's hands. Good, Delacour said. Get some rest. That night, Li Qi lay awake, thoughts racing. To save the family ranch, he had to enter the stellar cultivation camp within 5 years. It was the only realistic path. If I can enter the universe via the stellar cultivation camp and take part in the Cosmic Peak Genius battle, if I can join the core layer of the Virtual Universe Corporation or the Great Axe Battleground, maybe, just maybe, there'll be a path to revive Big Brother. He thought of Xiao Yi's level. He had reached the astral rank. Convincing a universe lord in the primordial universe to act within 10,000 years was almost impossible. Even a genius of Cody's caliber would have a hard time. Still, it was a glimmer of hope, and Li Qi resolved to chase it. With his goal set, he finally fell into a meditation sleep. Early the next morning, after farewells, Li Qi and the others flew for nearly an hour and arrived at Chaoguang City. The city was enormous, ringed on all sides by towering walls. Within those walls, colossal buildings rose into the clouds, their tops lost to mist. Even from the air, the city was vast. Just crossing one side of the wall would take a planetary-level cultivator a long time. They entered through a gate tens of meters high and stepped into a world that contrasted sharply with the grassland they had left. Skyscrapers gleamed, streets thrummed with people and goods. It was a futuristic metropolis that outshone the top cities Li Qi had seen in his previous life. Looking back, the massive city walls cut the landscape in two. Inside, prosperity and abundance. Outside, the harsh grasslands. One side was heaven, the other was hell. Li Qi stood very still, the juxtaposition sinking in. He finally understood why Big Brother and Father had gone to Chaoguang City and why Second Dad had been so determined to change this planet. End of Volume 1. Volume 2 begins tomorrow. Chapter 18, Weakness Lava Empire, Lava Emperor's Star. In a spacious, opulently furnished conference room, more than a dozen figures sat along both sides of the long table, each one a universe-rank powerhouse, either rank 8 or 9. The lights were bright, but the air in the room felt heavy. Despite their power, these universe-rank elders sat in silence, visibly unsettled. At the head of the table, a tall figure lurked in shadow, his face obscured. Light near him seemed to be swallowed, as if an endless dark aura clung to him. Only his hands, fingers steepled and elbows resting on the table, caught the light. That person was Frank, head of the Lava Empire's Cultivation Planet Management Department and a territory lord at rank 8. Heh! Frank let out a cold, mirthless laugh from the darkness. His voice was low and edged with fury. The core of a planet breached by Yao beasts. A planet's core, Kuka Star, who was assigned to guard it, a universe rank couldn't even stop a few apprentice rank Yao beasts? Find him. A universe rank quickly transmitted a message. Master, the universe rank appointed to Kuka Star has not yet taken office. He applied for a 10-year leave of absence, which you personally approved. Frank's memory snapped into place. The planet's guardian indeed hadn't reported in. His leave still had 2 years remaining. Frank's voice hardened. I remember now. Summon him at once. End the leave immediately and dispatch him to Kuka Star. He slammed his next order down like a hammer. All surviving mentors from this incident will be reassigned to the mines. They may only return after they've paid their dues. More than half the students on that cultivation base died, and all the promising ones are gone, he continued, fury mounting. Only 4 astral rank mentors chose to fight to the death. If it weren't for an astral rank student who comprehended a domain and cleaned up the mess, Kuka Star would have been devastated. He paused, the pressure of his aura bearing on the others until several of the universe ranks gasped. Starting today, assess every mentor on every cultivation planet. Screen them carefully, planet by planet. Anyone who fails the assessment loses their mentor status and benefits. Any corruption or misconduct will be punished immediately, sent to the mines. The resource department is short on miners. If this happens again, not only will the universe-rank planetary governors be punished, but all of you regional managers will be sent as well. He roared, Do I make myself clear? Yes, crystal clear, the universe ranks chorused, nodding. Satisfied, Frank concluded, meeting adjourned, and was the first out the door. He still had an apology to make to an old friend. When their department head left, the others finally relaxed and began to murmur. To most of these universe rank elders, the Kuka Star incident wasn't a catastrophe. Planetary casualties were replaceable resources. The real grievance was the death of a talented student who had comprehended a domain and could have been admitted to the stellar cultivation camp, cut down because the cultivation-based mentors had failed. Even worse, among the dead was the scion of a prominent family, a descendant of a close friend of their minister, who had gone to Kuka Star as a mere formality to gain some experience. That had provoked the minister's ire, compounded by Territory Lord Rika's taunts, and that ire was now burning at Frank. Still, some welcomed the fallout. It gave them a reason to reform the cultivation planets and to keep governors busy. After a round of private discussions, the universe ranks rose and left, the conference room doors closed, and silence fell again. 3 days had passed since Li Qi arrived in Chaoguang City. The Chaoguang Academy entrance exam ran every 3 months. There were 10 days until the next one. Thanks to his past life's experience, Li Qi had adapted quickly to city life and could already handle the local equipment with ease. Right now, he lay on his bed with a consciousness sensor strapped to his head, his mind plugged into the virtual Chaoguang Academy trial tower. Around him, the simulation opened into an endless grassland, a rolling sea of green that rippled in a gentle breeze. Li Qi floated on a shield, 16 bone cones orbiting him like teeth of a wheel, while 9 shishi birds circled high in the sky. A light screen before him displayed a message in the universe's common tongue. The assessment will begin in 10 seconds. Please kill 9 apprentice rank 9 shishi birds within 10 minutes. The screen vanished. The shishi birds dived, sharp, hard, and fast. The bone cones whistled out. They struck feathers and flesh, but if they failed to hit vital points, they merely staggered the birds. Within seconds, Li Qi was surrounded. He fought, but the simulated birds were precise and relentless. He was overwhelmed and killed in just over 20 seconds. Back in the small room, just a couch and a console, Li Qi sat and recalled the fight. On my second day of basic movement technique training, I cleared 5 shishi birds on the 3rd floor of the trial tower, 4 more than before I learned it. That's real progress, he said to himself, but his brow remained tight. He knew his problems. Without strong spiritual force or mental power, and without planetary-level bone cones, he still hadn't adapted to virtual combat. Those 2 advantages had shaped his fighting habits for so long that they were hard to shed. He still occasionally convinced himself a single bone cone could fell a shishi bird, but in the trial tower, apprentice rank 9 spiritual force, and ordinary bone cones barely inflicted lethal damage. Sometimes it took 10 or 20 hits to take one down. If I use hit-and-run tricks, I can kill 9 birds in 10 minutes, but that's meaningless, he muttered. He understood the purpose of the trial tower. With the same basic body and weapons, combat relied purely on skill, experience, consciousness, and comprehension of law. That was the unique challenge of fighting in the virtual universe. He had to adapt, or he risked not being accepted into Caoguang Academy. I'll try the martial artist Dao trial tower next and see how many floors I can clear, he told himself. He pushed off the sofa and re-entered the trial tower. A few minutes later, he reappeared in the room, shook his head, and let out a frustrated sigh. Chapter 19. Before the test. He had passed the second level of the martial artist path trial tower, but on the third level, facing 9 apprentice level 9 beast-type Yao beasts, he managed to kill only one before being surrounded and cut down. My close combat technique is too weak. My power amplification is only 1. It takes me several strikes to kill a single Yao beast, sometimes more than 10, Li Qi thought, shaking his head. My movement technique is ordinary too. Without the help of spiritual force, I'd have been done for against 9 apprentice level 9s. His close combat foundation was weak, but his Psyker Master foundation was solid. He had already completed the third stage of the controller's basic 28 forms. Deciding he needed guidance, Li Qi left the virtual universe and sought out his third uncle, Ivanko. It's a good thing you didn't cultivate blindly on your own, Ivanko said when Li Qi explained the problem. If you practiced wrong habits alone, correcting them would take a long time. Relieved to see Li Qi asking for advice, Ivanko explained the difference between the movement techniques required for martial artists and Psyker Masters. Martial artists fight up close, so their movement should leverage force, use the environment, the enemy's momentum, and minimize movement to evade effectively. Psyker Masters, who attack from a distance, need movement that emphasizes speed and explosiveness. Avoid getting close whenever possible. He then meticulously taught Li Qi the details of movement technique. 9 days later, Li Qi was back in the virtual universe trial tower at Caoguang Academy. On the grassland simulation, 6 beast-type Yao beasts, each 7 or 8 meters long, leaped and pounced like they were playing, while 3 bird-type Yao beasts circled overhead, occasionally diving and coming up empty. Li Qi moved nimbly among the 6 beasts, narrowly dodging each strike. At times, a claw seemed destined to hit, but another beast would bump it at the last moment, and the attack would miss. Li Qi used the shield in his hand to parry lightly, channeling the force to slip out of range of the next attacker. Suddenly, all the Yao beasts vanished, and a light screen snapped into existence. Time limit reached. Trial tower third level failed. Li Qi stretched and wasn't bothered. He hadn't been there to clear the trial tower. Not bad, he said to himself. This time I was only hit once attempting the third level of the martial artist path trial tower. He was pleased. His movement technique had reached a subtle level. Too bad my power amplification is only 1. I can't possibly pass the 4th level. On the 3rd level, his movement could wear the beasts down until they died, but on the 4th level, with 20 Yao beasts, there was no hope. The sheer number would overwhelm him. At best, he could last 20 seconds before being swarmed. Tomorrow, the 3-day entrance test for Caoguang Academy would begin. As Ivanko had explained, the entrance exam was divided into an amplification test and a combat resume. Candidates with high amplification and impressive resumes could be specially approved by the examiners to enter Caoguang Academy directly. Those not specially approved would have to take the trial tower assessment and gain entry based on their ranking there. Li Qi set a modest goal. Strive to gain special approval through a strong amplification score and an impressive combat resume. On the 3rd day's early morning, Ivanko took Li Qi to Caoguang Academy. 5 towering buildings rose like pillars into the sky, and the 4 main entrances were crowded. Hundreds of people waited in line, though the crowd was thinner than on the first day. Many had brought their children in the hope that a prodigy would be discovered and rise to power in the future. As an astral rank cultivator, Ivanko had privileges. He led Li Qi through a special passage that bypassed the queues. Their hover car glided into the academy and stopped in an area filled with other vehicles. They rode a high-speed elevator down to the testing grounds, located on the first floor of the north building. The waiting hall was as large as a football field, furnished with tables and chairs, but sparsely occupied. Only 20 or 30 people sat inside, mostly youths of 17 or 18. When Li entered, several heads turned. A 17 or 18-year-old girl whispered, "Do you guys know the newcomer?" "No," one answered. "Not me either," another said. They were puzzled. Growing up in Chaoguang City among astral rank families, they rarely met someone they didn't recognize. "The one who brought that kid is the third son of the Royce family, Ivanko Royce," a middle-aged voice said behind them. At the sound of it, the three youths stood and bowed respectfully as the speaker entered. "Old ancestor," they called. "Sit," the middle-aged man said with a smile, pulling over a chair. They sat and listened attentively. Their old ancestor liked to chat and watch for interesting things. When he spoke, it was usually worth paying attention. "Heh, you know the Royce family?" the old ancestor said, amused. "It hasn't been around long, and it doesn't have many members, but it's produced several prodigies. The most famous is Ron Royce." They nodded. Ron Royce was a legendary name on Kuka Star. The old ancestor continued, "This Royce family is special. Their talents are unusually good, and most members enter Kaoguang Academy." "Really? Is the Royce family that formidable?" one of the youths breathed. The old ancestor relaxed his eyes. "And that kid from the grassland, you've heard the rumors. It's said he single-handedly killed a planetary-level monster during the Beast Tide. An apprentice-level killing a planetary-level monster?" The three were stunned. It sounded impossible. They would have protested if the claim hadn't come from their old ancestor. He didn't make baseless claims. When he mentioned something, it usually carried weight. "Don't get cocky," the old ancestor chided them mildly. "Don't look down on people from the grassland. Remember, your old ancestor also came from the grassland." "Yes, old ancestor," they replied respectfully. The old ancestor turned his attention toward Li Qi. "Li Qi Royce, Delacour's son, there might be some excitement to watch today. He had a hunch something interesting would happen." Chapter 20. During the test. Li Qi and Ivanko's arrival drew attention. Some onlookers glanced at them with thinly veiled hostility. As more participants arrived for the entrance exam, the waiting area swelled. Counting those who had finished but not left, there were already 40 or 50 people lingering. Li Qi wondered why so many were still there after completing their tests. Beside him, Ivanko's face was unreadable. He noticed too many eyes fixed on them and the subtle murmurs that followed. Looking over at a powerful candidate who was openly enjoying the show, Ivanko guessed the reason. This time, the chief examiner must be someone connected to the Holke family. The examiners changed each time, and nobody knew who would sit in that chair until the morning of the test. The Chaoguang Academy Dean appointed them. The dean's rank even surpassed the city lord of Kaoguang City. Though in local affairs, the city lord held more real sway. Ivanko trusted Li Qi's talent. "This test may be tough," he said, "but with 11's ability, passing shouldn't be a problem." Just as it was nearly Li Qi's turn, Ivanko called softly, "11." Li Qi looked up. "Third uncle, is something wrong?" Ivanko's voice was serious. "No matter what they say to provoke you, stay calm during the test." Li Qi paused for a beat, then nodded. "I understand." A moment later, the communicator on Li Qi's wrist buzzed. It was his turn. "Third uncle, I'm going in." He stood, gave Ivanko a wordless nod, and walked toward the test room, the chief examiner's office. Ian sat in his chair, flicking a light screen with bored fingers. Nearly 2 years on Kuka Star had dulled him. As a cultivation planet of the Lava Empire, Kuka had no external threats, no roaming universe adventurers, and no cutthroat rivalries, just captive Yao beasts and an almost painfully ordinary routine. The resumes scrolling past only deepened his ennui. "All so ordinary," he muttered. Then a profile stopped him, apprentice-level candidate who'd killed a planet-level monster. His finger paused mid-swipe. "That's interesting," he said to himself, closing the screen with a stretch. It would be a good time to take a walk. Ian left the chief's office without waiting for his colleague's reaction and walked through the side door into the test room. A young female examiner was making notes when Ian entered. She straightened and began to speak, but Ian raised a hand to forestall her. "I'll handle this test. You can go rest." She obeyed without protest, leaving through the side door. Ian moved to her station and picked up the unfinished work, as if he'd been the examiner all along. Half a minute later, he pressed a call button. The main door opened and Li Qi stepped inside. "Li Qi Royce, right?" a voice asked. Li Qi looked toward it and saw a young man smiling on the other side of the room, a light screen of data before him. He understood at once this was the examiner. "I am Li Qi Royce," he answered. "I'm Ian, your examiner today," the man said. "Ready?" "Yes," Li Qi replied. "Good. Sit in the recessed chair on the left and connect the consciousness sensor," Ian pointed. A chair embedded in the wall waited, consciousness sensors mounted on either side. Li Qi sat and linked the sensors. In an instant, his presence shifted. The version of him in the room flickered and vanished, and his awareness slid into a virtual environment. "Am I in the virtual universe?" he asked, glancing reflexively at the left side of the door. The wall there was intact. No chair remained. "Don't be nervous. You're in the virtual universe," Ian's voice came, calm and steady. "The test is starting. Follow my instructions." Li Qi nodded. "Okay." "The data shows you're a controller. Choose a psionic weapon." At Ian's words, over a dozen common psionic weapons materialized in front of Li Qi. Blades, spikes, bone cones. He thought for a beat and chose the bone cone he'd trained with the longest. The other weapons dissolved into nothing. "Now control the psionic weapon and strike the circular target on the wall with full force." A circular target appeared on the wall. Li Qi channeled his psionic energy, flung the bone cone, and it smashed the target. The cone and the target vanished together. Ian made a small, approving sound. "Keep that intensity. Now state the number of psionic weapons you want. You'll receive that many." Li Qi understood. This was testing psionic amplitude and control. He decided to start conservatively. 8 bone cones. 8 bone cones blinked into existence in front of him. At the same time, 8 circular targets appeared across the wall. "Go!" Li Qi let out a focused shout and sent the 8 cones flying. Each struck a target, and both cones and targets disappeared. "Based on those 8, you may request more. 1 cone per target," Ian said. Li Qi considered his options. He liked to work with 16 cones, his usual during controller training, and the number he'd used while developing the basic 28 forms. He spoke without hesitation. 8. 8 more cones materialized, bringing the total to 16. 16 targets lined up before the wall. Li Qi launched them in a sweeping barrage. All 16 hit and vanished in a clean, mechanical cadence. "State another number if you wish," Ian instructed. Li Qi didn't overthink it. He commanded another 8. The field answered. 24 bone cones surged into being. The targets multiplied to meet them. Li Qi took a breath, tightened his focus, and sent all 24 cones forward, directing them with the precise coordination of a practiced controller.